Welcome to my world. Come on in and make yourselves at home. Welcome to my life. I know everything's gonna be all right. Welcome to my world. Oh, won't you come on in? Welcome to my life. It's known as the Tiger's Den. Greetings to all of my subscribers. I want to thank you for being with me for as long as you have, and the new subscribers that's coming on in. We want to say greetings and thank you for your time. This is from Toothless and the moderators. Welcome to the Tiger's Den. This is the voice of Cheryl, and I am Toothless Tiger, bringing to you true stories and up-to-date coverage of what's going on in this world. Greetings, Phyllis, and those that are in the bushes, the trees, the leaves, Belize, in the sand, the ocean, the cruise ship, the sky, wherever you may be. Welcome. I'm going to start out tonight with the latest in the presidential race. I don't know the significance of any of this, but it is what's happening right now. And I'm going to start with President Biden releasing a statement. So, give me a moment. Coming to you from MSNBC News, President Joe Biden.
News here, President Biden has announced he will stand down from the race. I'm going to read the statement here on my phone. We also have Tim Miller, who's going to be joining us shortly. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances. Thank you so much. I'm just going to read off the paper here. Passed the first safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deep Just gratitude to all of those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work, and let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Obviously, this is a significant breaking news development with the president announcing he is stepping back from the race. There was very little indication from people close to him and many people in the campaign that this was what was about to happen, as much as there were reports of Democrats calling on him to do that. What's interesting in this, I will note, and then we're going to bring Tim Miller in, is that he does not endorse the vice president in this statement. We'll see what he says later this week, and I know there's going to be a lot of reactions from people coming in as the statement was just put out by the White House.
Okay, so he doesn't endorse the vice president in his first statement. Is that strange to anybody? Now, I've understood that later on he supposedly endorsed the vice president, but I'm like the reporter. He didn't do it in his original statement, so I would say the other is just to save face, but that's one woman's opinion. And let's go to President Trump's response. And it will be coming to you from ABC News.
ABC editorial producer John Santucci. John, on the other end of this, you have former President Donald Trump's campaign. The former president is just after surviving this attempted assassination on his been back out on the campaign trail. And the Trump campaign has been notably a little bit more quiet on President Biden following this debate, a sign that maybe they really wanted to see him stay on the ballot in November. What more are we learning from the Trump campaign about how they're responding to this and also how they're preparing to now face off against Vice President Kamala Harris?
Rachel, literally, as you were just introducing me, we just got a statement from former President Donald Trump. I'm going to read the entire thing, Rachel. It's posted to his Truth Social account. It reads, quote, "Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement. All those around him, including the doctors and the media, knew that he wasn't capable of being president, and he wasn't. And now look what he's done to our country with millions of people coming across our border, totally unchecked, unvetted, many from prisons, mental institutions, and a number of terrorists." He goes on to say, "We will suffer greatly because of his presidency, but we will remedy the damage he has done very quickly." Trump goes on to end the statement, "Make America Great Again." Of course, the signature line, Rachel, as you know all too well. Listen, the Trump team in recent days, Rachel, you and I have been reporting this together, have actually backed off attacking President Biden because they see an easier path to beat Joe Biden. Now, all of which to say, as again, because you and I do this together, Rachel, we reported earlier today, our understanding at ABC News is that the Trump team had been building basically a just-in-case book to beat Kamala Harris. They've been doing research, some polling, and we know from our reporting, Rachel, that they've already looked at how they would, take some of the past statements of the vice president, now that, of course, Joe Biden's endorsed her, and start to build attack ads against her. The reality is that this is going to be a bit of uncharted waters for the Trump team because, again, for much of the last 3 years, they've been gearing up for Joe Biden. So it is going to have to be a quick pivot. They are going to have to start to spend more money, especially on ads, which, as you well know, Rachel, a big bulk of Donald Trump's campaign cash has been used really for his legal bills over the last year as he fended off the cases in New York, the federal cases by special counsel Jack Smith and the investigations brought by Fulton County District Attorney Bonnie Willis in the efforts to turn the election there. I do think the other thing that I'm hearing from my sources, and I know my colleague Catherine Folders and you were hearing it as well, Rachel, is that one of the things they're going to do is attack Kamala Harris on immigration. But seriously, though, this is a big shock to them as well.
John Santucci, thank you.
Okay, that was just the opening. And so what do you guys think about President Biden dropping out of the race and his replacement? Do you have any thoughts about it? I'm much of the opinion, since I've been researching, that the majority of us as Asiatic people don't really have the knowledge to have an intelligent political conversation. And that's why most of us will state that we don't talk about politics. I don't think we know enough about politics. We speak mainly to politricks and that we can see, but it's so much deeper than what we can see. And unless you do research and find out how these policies and procedures actually work, you don't have a concept of what's really going on, in my personal opinion. Now, I'm not talking about any one individual. I'm talking about us as a collective. We have so many everyday struggles just trying to survive our neighborhoods that we really don't have the, I guess we could make the time, and we should make the time, but we don't make the time because we know what we've been taught. And that's pretty much where we, glean from what we've taught, what we've been taught, or what we've heard other people say, and then we'll get in behind that conversation. And that's what I've seen. Now, Liquid Concrete, that's one of the people I like looking at, and she had really great little, I guess you could say, thesis, idea on what she think this is all about. And I think you guys should check her out and just see what you think about what she thinks, because I thought it was pretty interesting. And she does her research and she puts it out there, and then it's up to you what you believe or think about it. But what she did do for me is she brought in Fonnie Willis's father, because they said the guy that was attempting to do what he attempted to do, he had a picture of Fonnie Willis in his phone, but it was no negative comments or anything. And then she brings up Angela Davis and her, past. And then she brings up Fonnie Willis's father, who pretend he was such a great Panther back in the day. So I thought it was very interesting, her take on it. And so I put her link to her channel if anybody wanted to just go and check that out, because it was very interesting. I want to say greetings, Regina. We've got those two out of the way. That's what's happening with the nation. Let's go with the topic for tonight. And I know everybody is into Young Thug, and so am I. I'm into Young Thug trial because I see the injustices that's going on with these young men. And perhaps other people do too. I don't see a lot of the injustice being displayed. I see a lot of entertainment, and that's what they say we love, entertainment. And then one of the things that Silent Weapon says is just, if you would keep the adults entertained on a 6th grade level. But we have to level up and grow up. And we got to stop looking at everything as just entertainment. And sticking with personalities who we like and don't like. This is a matter of constitutionality, life, and the opposite of life. And we need to, in my mind, look at this case to see the injustices that are done every day throughout this country in courtrooms all over. And if you don't know what's happening, then you won't catch it. And you'll think that it was really a fair trial. Well, we saw the biases in the judge, and we saw the judge practicing from the bench, and I'm talking about Judge Biasville. And we saw him teaming up with the prosecution, not being the referee that he said that he was, that he's supposed to have the training to be. And he's the Chief Justice of the Superior Court in Fulton County. But he acted like he was actually the DA for the prosecution. And he would oftentimes assist when the state was stuck. The state offered a lot. I've never seen this in my life, that they would, instead of filing motions to the court, because, you know, you can't speak to the court except through documents, if you didn't know that. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't give legal advice. I study and I read, and I learn truth, and I don't mind sharing it. But what you need to know is you can't just arbitrarily speak to the judge. Basically, what you do is in documents called motions and pleadings and things of that nature. Objections, if you don't agree, and then you can file other types of pleadings. I've never seen a case where everything that these people do is in a PowerPoint exhibition. I've never seen that. And, you know, when I first started looking at the case, which was about March, maybe February, March, somewhere in that area, one of the things that I know that the defense was having an issue with is that these people are not filing motions, they're just putting up PowerPoints. And I thought that that was strange that a judge would allow that. Now, the new judge that they have on the case, I don't believe that she's going to go for those shenanigans. And I say that by the hearing that she held. It was a status hearing, and she was wanting to know where they were and, you know, what motions were pending, if they had any more motions they wanted to file. All motions by the defense are due in by the 23rd of this week, and all responses from the state are due in by that Friday, which I believe is the 26th. I'm not quite sure. Check your calendar. But, you know, she talked as if she's going to run a tight ship. And I think she's talking like that because they have to go through the process. But I believe, and this is just one woman's opinion, that actually that they're going to be going for a mistrial, and she's going to have to call it because of the prosecutorial and judicial misconduct that Judge Krause, by happenstance, wrote out of her order when she recused Judge Biasville. Now, one of the things that Mr. Steele did do is he filed a motion addressing those issues and requesting a hearing on those issues that seemed to be omitted from Judge Krause's, and that was the one who was chosen to hear the recusal motions of Judge Biasville. So it's really interesting to look at these cases, and it's also even more interesting if you would take notes and see how these cases work. And as you know, it's like this in every courtroom. So ethnicity, nationality, none of that seems to matter. It doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter. We saw that in Alec Baldwin's case. We see the confusion in Karen Reed's case. And we can go on and on and on with cases, especially if you like looking at court TV. You can see the dynamics in the courtroom and the different way that judges run their courtroom. This courtroom has been nothing but a three-ring circus. I've never in life seen a courtroom ran in the manner in which Judge Biasville ran his courtroom. And in my opinion, I think he confused it with Veterans Court because he also was a justice in Veterans Court, and they tend to have a little more leniency in their code of conduct and ethics, where you are allowed to have an ex parte conversation in those type of courts for different reasons other than the ones that's given for the actual code of conduct 2.9, I believe it is. But it's just amazing to me how he would run that courtroom in the manner in which he did. And then when the state answered to why he should not be recused, instead of them fighting their fight, they were attacking, in my opinion, Mr. Steele and the other defendants. And I've just found if you're going to fight, and especially if you're going to fight in writing, you need to stick to your fight and the facts. And then you need to have the law, and you need to have the case law that supports the law that you're bringing. Because there's going to be case law unless you're going to set the precedent. But there's going to be case law. Somebody has had a situation like yours before now. And what you want to do is search for cases that are more favorable to what you're going through. And that's basically what you do when you're fighting a fight in the courtroom. Because the court only speaks to the person that's there, that's your representative, unless you are presenting yourself. And most of us that have tried to fight a fight, we present ourselves pro se. The greatest way I've been taught is sui juris. And sui juris just means you're in your own person, because you have to look at jurisdiction. And when you are represented by someone, or if you even say pro se, then what you are is being still in their jurisdiction. But there is a jurisdiction called propria persona. Impropria persona is what it's called, and that's sui juris. That means you're coming in your person as a human being. And that's very important to know. And what you have to do is just start researching. And I tell you all the time, your best friend is Google. Although they don't always get it right. But a lot of things that are on these search engines are right. And then you can always visit your law library or the Library of Congress, and you can visit these libraries from your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen, your bathroom, your automobile. You can do it via telephone, online. You never have to leave home. And the librarians are very helpful when you call with a question. They are very helpful, and you can pretty much get whatever you're seeking. Now, I want to talk about powerful women. You know, most of us, all we've known most of our lives, if you're a baby boomer, now if you're younger than 60, then perhaps, you know, you've known women executives and women in high places. But for us baby boomers, that's fairly the last 20 years, I would say, maybe 30 years, that you see women sitting in the seats of mayors and district attorneys. And if you listen to a lot of them story, you will hear that they are the first to do this and the first to do that. Like I just heard them state earlier, and I don't know if it was in the video I just played or if it was in a video before that, but I heard them say that, you know, President Biden put in the first Asiatic woman on the Supreme Court. So we're still talking first in 2024, which is really asinine to me, but it is what it is. But these women that I have here on this thumbnail, starting with the one at the bottom to the left. And that was Mayor Megan Barry. And she was the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee. Well, what these three women have in common is abuse of power and affairs with the men that they have to the right of them much of the time. At the top is Mayor LaToya Cantrell, and she is now under investigation, and her bodyguard, who is a police officer for the New Orleans Police Department, he actually resigned recently. And I did a video about it, I think Friday night, Saturday morning, because it had just broke Friday that he was indicted under federal indictment. And as you guys know, I've been doing a series on the trial penalty, Sixth Amendment right, and it applies to the federal system. So this is going to be very interesting to see if he's going to take his case to trial, or if he's going to plea and work with the government. That's going to be the so-called government. That's going to be very, very, very interesting to see, because that's where they talked about how controversial the sentencings are different from the state. Because number one, they have sentencing guidelines, but yet their judges have a lot of power, and they can go above or below those guidelines in certain crimes. So that's going to be very interesting to see. But I want to take you back to let you know it's not just the black girl magic that they call it that's out of control, although they are definitely out of control. It happens to humans when they're given power. And what's my favorite line is, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, everybody with power is not corrupt, because some people actually have a moral compass and they're going to stick by that no matter what. I think anytime you go into politics, and I call it politricks, that you're going to have to make a decision for yourself personally what you're willing to compromise, because you're going to be compromising something, because you work under a system, the well-oiled machine that's been into play ever since we've known this place to be the United States of America. So when you understand that, there's certain things, I'm sure the majority of the people that took these positions went in there thinking that they were going to make a difference and they were going to change it for their people, all people, whatever. But nothing changes. It seems the haves have and the have-nots don't. The rich get richer, the poor gets poorer. And life is extremely hard for the majority of us working class people. And we do what we're supposed to do. At least we make every attempt to do it. And we know it's not all. But the majority of the people just want to be able to live life free of encumbrances. But we know that's kind of almost impossible, because bills are going up, salaries remain the same. Some people even have to take a pay cut. So we don't understand the dynamics of that, but we elect people. And like these three women, we elect people locally to be the voice for the collective. Unfortunately, once we go to the polls, whenever that time comes, that's as far as most of us go. We don't go to any of the city council meetings, which the mayor presides over. We don't go to any of the commissioners' meeting. And what I'm finding in most states, All of the funding comes from your county commissioners. Now, you may not call them county, you may call them parishes, you may call them townships. I don't know what you may call them in your area, but that seat that's between the municipality, which is the city, and the state, which is known as the county. Most all of your funding come from that board of commissioners. So most of us have no clue, and we don't know how they're allocating money or how they're spending money. I didn't learn anything about the budgets until I started looking at Fani Willis taking on Donald Trump, and then the story came out about she and Nathan Wade. And then I seen the work that Ashley Merchant put in, and she was invited to the Senate. And the reason she was invited to the state Senate, they can't do anything to her. Greetings, Asator. But what they do is they are the legislative body that makes the laws for the state. So what they can do is hear all the complaints and then decide to amend, write, or rewrite the laws and to make them fit. And so that's what we have there. But this lady in Nashville, she's not a black girl magic. She's a European tragic, because she was dating a guy and she was the mayor, and she ended up getting caught up in a federal investigation. What was really, really, really strange to me, and I know about deferred adjudicated probation, and I want y'all to hear what's going to happen to her as a result of pleading guilty. Here we go. Let's start with the mayor, Megan Barry, Nashville. And this happened a few years ago, so this is nothing that happened today. I'm more of the opinion of trying to help uplift humanity and to maybe drop some keys, perhaps that can spark you to want to research, because I know nothing is going to change until we become knowledgeable about the systems that run this world. We can talk all the beauty and all the love that we want, but love, which is known as charity, begins at home and it spreads abroad. And we talk about what we teach our children, but we have to look at what do we know to teach our children, because what we've taught them mainly is what we've been taught. And now we have to start challenging some of the things that we've been taught. Some people take issue with that, and that's okay. Let them take issue. But what you need to do as an individual is to go inside of yourself and just ask yourself, how happy are you? And how would it be in a world if you had a say in it? Because honestly, you do. It comes with the people that you choose to represent you. And so you have to start researching. You can't just go by word of mouth. You need to look at, if it's an incumbent, you need to look at their record. If it's somebody new, you need to see where they're coming from. And that kind of helps guide you. That doesn't mean you're going to pick the right one, because you don't know. But life without risk is not worth living. And the risk, I tell you, the reward is greater when you do your homework and do what you can and be a voice. Because a lot of us don't realize how our voices really matter. And they may not matter to these people on YouTube. And I mean the content creators. I don't mean our subscribers that come in and choose us, because I'm grateful to all of you that come here every Wednesday and every Sunday and listen to me, those that come in and out, those that don't speak a word in the chat, but you do come and listen and watch me. I appreciate you, and you need to understand and know that, because I really came to YouTube to help uplift fallen humanity, and I do it in the best way that I know how. And so that's what I do every time that I come on this platform. I've tried to support other content creators, and I've learned it's just like it is in the world. You know how people say it's a dog-eat-dog world? And one of the reasons we as a people don't overcome the things that's been done to us, because it's so embedded in us, till we want to compete with one another. I thought when you came on YouTube that we all supported one another. That is not true. I see people, and I have supported many of people, join their memberships, donated. They don't even show up and say hello. And you know, some people think because they have numbers, big numbers, that they don't have to do that. But we all started with the zero. Maybe you came and you had 20 people that came with you when you first decided to make your page. I don't know. But I had a page for many years, and only 3 people had subscribed to it. So when I decided to start doing videos, I came with 3 people. And I am grateful that I have grown in the last 2 weeks exponentially, in my opinion, because now I'm over 1,600. And for me, that's a great, great feat, and I'm grateful. So, with that being said, I see people, we don't support one another, and then they said, do business with one another. Well, that's why we don't patronize each other. It's like we have the syndrome of not wanting to see anybody prosper. Hi, and what? I'm glad that you listened to Asatar. Thank you for coming. Hope you enjoy it. Be sure and hit the like button. I appreciate you for even typing in the chat. And you're welcome. Oh, thank you for subbing up too. And you're welcome to type in the chat. And you don't have to agree with me. The only thing I ask anybody is just don't be disrespectful, but you don't have to agree with me. You just come in here and be yourself, because you can teach me something. I'm forever learning, and I don't know it all. But that I know, I try to share. And it's unfortunate that we're so hooked into entertainment and giggle when we're hurting. Our children are being unalived daily. I saw a story that broke my heart. Children going to visit their grandmother for the summer, this summer. And it happened to all of us. Maybe you didn't have a grandmother that you went to visit. Maybe it was an auntie that you went to visit. Whoever it was that you went to visit. But they all met up at grandma's house. And one was 8 and one was 12. And they shared a room. They loved being together. They loved playing with one another. 2 beautiful young ladies. Well, I could say one they showed us a photo of. The other they didn't. Because what she ended up doing over an iPhone, parents, hear me. And if you don't have children and you know people with children, have the conversation. This young lady unalived her 8-year-old cousin by way of a pillow. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you for the cash app. I'll acknowledge it in just a moment. But this young lady unalived her cousin over an iPhone. And what's really sad about the whole thing is the grandma, being a precautious grandmother, had cameras in their room. So everything was caught on camera. And she literally did this to her 8-year-old cousin over an iPhone. And then she tried to clean her up and repurposed her body. This is real. A 12-year-old did this to an 8-year-old. So it's things happening today. A lot of this comes from children looking at videos, playing games. A lot of different things are happening that is out of our control. Yeah, that's very heavy. Very. But I just saw that story. Yeah, she was on camera. And the officer said it was just so horrific. Now they want to try to, and I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this. They want to try her as an adult. And they said because of her actions. But I don't think that she should be tried as an adult. It's just my personal opinion. And anybody can express theirs. Asatar. Okay, you're talking to and what? Ask some of the hard questions others aren't willing to ask. She's a great contributor to my show, and she decides to grace me with her presence. That's absolutely beautiful. So that's something I have a problem with, them charging her as an adult. Children may do adult things, but in the final analysis, they're still children. And so that's what they're asking for. And of course, now this has split the family because they were all real close. And I could imagine being the parent with the loss, how she could feel. I could understand that, especially right now. Hopefully, as time goes on, I don't know how the family heals, but the family, hopefully they can heal, because that's so very painful. And we all would say what we would do and what we would like to happen. Again, we're speaking out of ignorance and emotion. We don't really know. And I don't either. Regina said, yes, there are a lot of disturbing and horrific crimes happening in this world these days. Many are unfamiliar of these crimes due to local and not national coverage. That's true, Regina. And I was hoping that's what we would see a lot of, being people that never gets our story told. And the real story, you know, we get a lot of the criminal stuff. And this is criminal in nature. But it's a lot going on, and we don't really understand the dynamics of it, because some children, they're glued to their phones, and hopefully the parents know what they're into. Perhaps not. But some of the games that they allow their children to play, that's why I think you have a lot of the weapon play, because of the different games. And then you have the jacking of the automobiles, because you got the game Grand Theft Auto. And they make it look so beautiful. And, you know, you use your mind and you just come up with ideas of different ways. And we all have the ability to think. So who knows what's in the mind of a human being? No one, until they put it out there. You know, most of us are not clairvoyant. We may be pretty good at reading people and character and things of that nature, but we just don't know the operation of someone else's mind. Let me give a thank you at this moment for the Cash App, because I greatly appreciate that.
Your face. You got to remove the excess water. Now she's coming
This
out.
is how you do it. Thank you. This is how we do it. Phyllis says maybe, just maybe, she thought the child would recover like on the games or the TV. That's true. And that could be true. You know, you never know. Asatar said 12-year-old being charged as an adult is a hard pill to swallow. That's one horrific story. Shaking my head. Yeah, it is. And what I'll do is I'll put the link in the description when I go back to at the end of the video, you know, when I go off and everything, I'll go put it in there. And Regina said, I know some don't like to hear it, but I will continue to say it. It all starts at home. That's exactly where it starts. It starts at home. But one of the things about starting at home, I'll give you a scenario. You could be from the same home with the same parents, getting the same treatment, but you're still an individual. And so you can have the perfect parents, the perfect situation at home. You can be taught the same truths, and one choose to do right and one choose to do wrong. But it does start at home. It really does. And one thing about these people, from what they knew up until this point, they all were a very close-knit family. And those cousins were very close and went to visit grandma every summer and couldn't wait to see each other. But again, life changes through the course of a year. Life changes in the course of a moment. So you don't know what people are going through, even at 12 years old. You know, that's when a lot of the bullying comes into play. At 12, the girl starts changing. Her body starts changing. Her hormones start changing. You just don't know what would make her do what she did, but it's on camera. She did it. Although she didn't know what had happened, she said. But unfortunately, she didn't know Grandma had a camera. And like the police officer said, you have to commend the grandmother to be able to turn that tape over to the police. Because, you know, in some situations, that tape could have vanished. And they would have never known. Hi, Elohim. Thank you for coming by. I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like button. Okay, well, yeah. Have yourself a beautiful night. Yeah, that's a hard one to swallow. Yeah, and that's one of the things I like about Charleston White. And he worked with children that unalive their parents and their friends. He was a kid that was involved in a situation where a man was unalived, and he was a part of that crime. And so he does a lot of caricatures here on YouTube and talking crazy and stuff, but it's a method to his madness, because he also speaks to children and schools to let you understand about the mind and how it functions. It's the truth. It's the truth. No matter how we look at it. Regina said exactly at Toothless Tiger, and believe it or not, I have encountered many adults that still cannot grasp that people can be reared and raised in the same household environment and grow differently. Yeah, you know, it's because people don't look past their thoughts. And, you know, in some things, I used to be a very tunnel vision person. I thought it was right, you know. And when you get stuck on thinking something is right, I'm not saying I thought I was right always. It's what I thought I was thinking was right. And, you know, because people will tell you when you have a conversation and you disagree, you always want to be right. Well, damn, don't you want to be right? Ain't that why we having this conversation? If that's the way you view me, No, I'm thinking I'm saying some real righteous stuff. But I could be wrong as two left shoes. But we don't understand the human psyche and what goes into it. And it's a lot of things that trigger children. And they don't know how to process it, because as parents, I know when we grew up as baby boomers, then you didn't even get to express yourself and you didn't have a voice. And for those people that grew up in a home that allowed you to do that, rah, 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 hats off to you. But the majority of us in my neighborhood and hoods like mine throughout America, the children didn't get to express themselves with the feelings that they were feeling. So much so, I can tell you, you can ask most adults that you know to express a feeling to you in words, and they can't do it. They just can't do it. And that's real. Now, you know, 1 minute you may hear me say can't, and the next minute you're going to hear me say can't. You know, I go in and out. That's who I am. I don't pretend. I am who I say I am. And that's just a regular little old girl from the heart of Oak Cliff in the ghetto that had a mom and a dad that gave me everything that they had. And what we sometimes come to know, that everything that our parents have to give is just not enough. And I'm not talking about material things. But they gave us a foundation, and they held us to the mat, and they taught us right from wrong. A lot of the children today, unfortunately, are not getting that. Parents are having to work more hours. Everybody is microwaving everything. You know, while we went through the fast food stage, and that's when McDonald's was popping with the Happy Meals. And then everybody else had to come up with some type of meal to compete, because it was very easy, you know, in the 80s and the 90s. You know, the Happy Meal is not too happy today. They're not buying them like they used to. And if they do now, they're buying the adult Happy Meal. And that's crazy. But that's what they're doing. Wendy's went for the 4 for $4. You know, they had to do something, because a lot of people was just microwaving. Because no matter what you're going through, time is moving forward. And if you don't have it together, a schedule, whatever it is that you need to have to get what you need to get done, because it seems as if there are not enough hours in a day. But you have to kind of like retrain yourself and start understanding that you got 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to do whatever you need to do, and 8 hours to work. But some jobs are requiring people to work 10 and 12 hours, 6 and 7 days a week. Some people, their just ability to live, I ain't talking about to vacation or to have fun. I'm talking about just to pay their bills. Help me testify, somebody. They got to work 2 jobs. And they don't do anything extra. They're just trying to live. A lot of people today are losing housing. I don't know if y'all seen any of my shorts. I just did 2 of them on the Fulton County Housing Authority. You know, Fulton County, and I'm sure it's indicative in all counties, but that county is one of the worst counties, and probably because they're under the spotlight right now. Thanks to Fonnie Willis, she brought the lights in. And I know that she's not the one that's running that machine. She's just doing her part. And now she's going to know what it feels like when you take that kind of risk and you're not prepared to do it. She's going to see. Let's look at, as I was about to show us, Miss Megan Barry. This is the mayor from Nashville. And let's hear her story.
Well, a lot of people are trying to figure out exactly how everything happened. Well, we have a package to kind of give you an idea looking back. Let's take a look.
Whether it was always her intention to get here, we may never know. We will never know what could have been. But we do know now the ways in which Megan Barry's career will be defined. Before she resigned, before her affair, Nashville watched, often in awe, as Megan Barry's political star in the Democratic Party was born. In September of 2007, Barry won her first political election. She filled one of 5 at-large council seats on the Metro City Council. From there, she seemed to hit the ground running. In 2009, she pushed hard for a resolution that would prevent Metro from discriminating against employees based on their sexual orientation or sexual identity. By a slim vote, the measure passed in September of 2009.
I'm just so thrilled that everybody stepped up and did what they said they were going to do.
She was always seen as a champion of the LGBT community in Nashville. The resignation will perhaps hit there the hardest.
I don't have an agenda. What I have is a deep personal belief that nobody should be discriminated against.
She would spend 2 terms on the Metro Council after winning re-election in 2011. Barry was seemingly omnipresent, making appearances at every major community event. Her successful rise to the mayor's office began there.
They are finding their seats.
Then came the 2015 mayoral election. 7 candidates all vying for the same seat.
You need to understand government and you need to understand business, and I understand both.
By the time the August 2015 primary was over, it was Megan Barry left standing against her political foe, David Fox. On Election Day, the race had become so heated that Barry and Fox wouldn't acknowledge one another.
David is trying to inject our families into this election.
Was the most expensive mayoral campaign the city had ever seen.
We've been at several polling locations. People are energized, excited, they're out voting, and you see it here at this precinct, and we're seeing it all across the county.
At the end of a grueling election day, though, it would be Megan Barry who would make history, becoming the city's first female mayor with 55% of the vote.
You, the Nashville voters, this one is going to go down in the history books. This one is all about the fact that today you went to the polls and you elected the first woman mayor.
At the time, we did not know that the man standing next to her, who would become her bodyguard, Rob Forrest, would also become the man whom she would have an affair with.
Tomorrow our real work begins. But this is a job I hope I've been preparing for the last 8 years, because I get to walk into that office and I actually know how it works.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. But I can't do this without you. I cannot do this without all of you.
The glitter of that night quickly wore off. Taking the reins of the It City came with challenges. There would be a public spat over funding a new jail, the constant concern of keeping Metro General Hospital funded, and then the violence that only got worse under her administration.
Do you feel responsible personally to fix this?
Sure. I mean, as the mayor of this city, I absolutely feel a personal responsibility for the safety of our citizens. So this is something that weighs on my mind every day.
By the end of 2017, Nashville surpassed 100 homicides, and the city was asking the mayor what she was doing to fix it.
How do we fix this?
There isn't one answer. There's many answers. I mean, and it takes an entire community to wrap their arms around this.
The lowest point in her life, though, came on July 31st of 2017.
News Channel 5 at 10.
Shock and sadness are followed by an outpouring of support across Nashville after Mayor Megan Barry's son passed away.
Max Barry was Megan and her husband Bruce's only son. He died in a room in Denver after overdosing on Xanax, marijuana, and opioids. Hundreds came to pay their respects.
We all, of all ages, have made incredible mistakes in our lives, and we almost always walk away from them. And he made one that you don't walk away from.
As a city, our hearts collectively broke as we watched Megan Barry, the mother, deal with a kind of pain no parent should ever have to experience. We watched as she left Max's memorial, thanking every police officer she encountered. We did not know then that the man standing beside her would bring down her career.
This last 9 days has been pretty, I don't even have words.
But there were victories as well, the biggest of which will be one that lives on beyond this scandal. a massive multi-billion-dollar transit plan, which includes light rail, even a tunnel under the city.
It's a transportation solution that will create transportation independence.
Mayor Berry successfully convinced city council members to push forward with a resolution which would ask voters to approve funding for the plan with a tax increase. So why are you pushing to move the referendum so quickly in 2018?
Well, I don't think that this is a quick push. The state legislature gave us the opportunity to do this, and the voters in Nashville have told us repeatedly that they don't want to sit in traffic anymore.
I, Megan Berry.
I, Megan Berry.
During her 3 years in office, there were incredible highs.
We're awesome! We're number one!
The Preds went to the Stanley Cup. She was there.
This is what it means for our city. We are just in a great place.
And when a gunman opened fire on a church in Antioch, killing a young mother, she was there too.
She was a mother. She was a wife. She was a daughter. She was a friend. She was a neighbor. And she had so much more life to live.
But through all the ups and downs, it would be her own shortcomings which would cut her career short.
The mayor of Nashville says she will not step down after admitting to an extramarital affair with the former head of her security detail.
The affair, the taxpayer dollars, the headlines, the distraction it all created in the end would be too much for her to survive.
I know God forgives, but the people of Nashville don't have to. And I also want to ask for their forgiveness.
Whether it was always her intention to get to this office all along, we may never know. But we do know now this office is no longer Megan Berry's. Chris Conti, News Channel 5.
Okay, so that was Megan's story, and it was an unfortunate one. You start out with so many ideas and hopes and dreams, and what you really think that you're going to make a difference, and then things get in the way. Let's go to the next story. Sorry, y'all wasn't seeing that.
Coverage throughout this day, a very important day in the history of Metro Nashville, as Mayor Megan Berry steps down, and this was earlier today when she made her announcement just after 10 a.m. Vicki.
She's pleading guilty to a felony theft over $11,000 in connection to the extramarital affair she had with her bodyguard, Sergeant Rob Forrest, who was also in court today.
Just watch a little bit of this video from earlier today as she made this appearance. And this was just moments before she announced her resignation.
Exactly.
And again, this was the guilty plea to theft of property. She and her attorneys agreed to this deal with District Attorney General Glenn Funk. And we had Jim Todd on earlier just talking about probably the real urgency and need, and the need for privacy, and that they just did not want a lot of the discovery process to happen with some of the evidence in this case.
It could be her phone, it could be all kinds of things, and they just didn't want that out there, and that's certainly understandable. And we also have to tell you, she is not a convicted felon.
That's right.
Jim Todd told us that as well, that she is
conditional plea, a judicial diversion, so unless she violates the terms of the deal, the probation, she will not be a convicted felon. Phil,
as she was turning there, she had been listening to DA Glenn Funk talk about the allegations against her, and as she turned, there was a bit of a smirk because she really, this had become personal between her and General Funk, and he had insisted that this had to end like this. This had to end with her pleading guilty to a charge. So, you know, we saw a hint of that on her face because this was certainly not the way that she wanted this to end. And we're taking a look right now at her police mugshot.
Because she had offered to pay the money, as we said earlier. She had offered to pay back any money that she might have spent, and they weren't having it.
Yeah, so, I mean, but, you know, again, she admitted that she had misused taxpayer funds. And so, you know, General Funk obviously felt that, you know, deserved more than just a resignation, that she needed to go into court and admit that. So, you know, without reading, you know, his mind, you know, certainly that's probably what was behind, you know, his insistence that she go into court.
Now, I view his insistence for her to go into court for humiliation's sake, because if she's got a diversion program and not a convicted felon, then that doesn't prohibit her from running for office again. Because one of the things that happened with the people that I know that was convicted in public office of offenses, and the dollar amounts did not exceed some of these dollar amounts that I heard being thrown around, but the judge specifically said that they had to do time, even if it wasn't anything but 12 months, so that they would be a convicted felon and they could never run for office again. So it's just where you are in life and who you are. That's just what that is. And you could be thrown in a situation, and people need to quit assuming that everybody is guilty of what they're accused of. That's why we have the presumption of innocence. If you go up and say that you're guilty, whether you're guilty or not, you become guilty if you're convicted of that. But there are people that have done nothing wrong, but for the circumstances they find themselves in, they will plead to doing wrong. Yes, it is. Hypocrisy and corruption. That's what life is all about. It's a human thing. But you're going to have that. Certainly if you have what you call sin and being saved, you can't be saved from something you don't do. Wrong, if you don't do wrong, that's a human attribute. And it's nothing new under the sun. And this is the last piece of information we're going to hear about Megan. But I just wanted people to know that it happens to us all. You know, it's not just one group of people. It's not just black girl magic. This has been going on ever since there's been a system, and I'm sure it will continue. What's disheartening for me is that we say when we get an opportunity to make it right for others, especially those that look like us, that we would do different, and we get in the same positions and do the same thing. And then we shy away from being accountable or responsible for the actions that we decided to, make and take.
Barry's time as Nashville's mayor has come to an end, but you can't say the same thing about the multiple investigations she's still facing from different groups. News Channel 5's Jason Lamb tells us how the mayor could wind up answering questions in public as she defends herself against an ethics complaint.
The Board of Ethical Conduct decided to hold hearings. That's the next step up in this process on two specific elements of an ethics complaint filed by the group Community Oversight Now.
All in favor? Aye.
The hearings in front of the Board of Ethical Conduct will address two specific items. Number one, whether former Mayor Barry's relationship with Metro Police Sergeant Rob Forrest created the appearance of giving preferential treatment because of the increased overtime he received as Barry's head of security. And number two, whether Barry's affair with Forrest may have influenced her decision against a community oversight board for the Metro Nashville Police Department, and if so, whether that violated Metro's standards of conduct.
We felt that we had made that case, that there was an appearance of bias.
Theda Murphy with the group Community Oversight Now filed the ethics complaint. She says she hopes this hearing will make it clear that any bias to Metro employees as an elected official is not okay.
If there isn't enough of a check and balance within the system, we are hoping that this process, this hearing process, will help to reveal the holes and the flaws in the system.
Under Metro Code, the Board of Ethical Conduct can give both sides, Murphy and Barry, the chance to present their case at the hearing. But it's unclear if the board can compel their testimony with a subpoena. The Board of Ethical Conduct has not set any dates yet for the hearings to come. At City Hall, Jason Lamb, News Channel 5.
And I find they waste more taxpayers' money having all of these hearings and having the people to come and talk, and there are no consequences as a result of what the people have done. It just seems like another way to get money or spend money that they call the taxpayers' money. So now we've seen this happens to all of us. Let's go to Mayor Cantrell. And that's the mayor of New Orleans, and they're going on right now. Her investigation is going on right now. Let me take you back. Regina said, whenever there are laws and policies, rules put in place as a means for all to adhere to in order to have a fair, unbiased, and just process for individuals, when that is comprised, all are. That is true. And that's not comprised, that's compromised. That's what she said. When that is compromised, all are. I agree 100%.
LaToya Cantrell's former bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Sharice Gibson.
And I'm Katie Moore. Vappy was charged in an 8-count federal indictment. He's accused of collecting police pay for official protection duties when he was actually engaged in personal romantic encounters with the mayor. The political implications of this are vast, especially since we know that in the background of all this, there's still a federal investigation going on into Mayor Cantrell herself. And political analyst Clancy Dubose is with us.
All right, Clancy, can you give us your take on the indictment? We heard the hints that the interim NOPD superintendent, Michelle Woodfork, may have been passed over for the job of permanent chief because Vappy was sanctioned by the internal investigators. How do you think that plays into this?
Well, I think that's a major factor among many major factors in this investigation. I'm holding a copy of the 8-count federal indictment of former officer Jeffrey Vappy. And from reading the indictment, it sure appears that the government has a very strong case. He is, of course, presumed innocent until proven guilty, but the indictment outlines the things that they have evidence for. And it's clear that the feds are not relying on hearsay or even he said, she said kind of evidence. It's clear that from the indictment that they have monitored Vappy's searches online, the texting between the two, the fact that they tried to use, allegedly, according to the indictment, WhatsApp to text back and forth, thinking it would be encrypted and that it wouldn't be subject to discovery by anyone. All of that went by the wayside. Clearly, the feds have dug deep and gotten a lot of documentary evidence here. And lots of times, cases can be documentary and they're kind of boring because documentary cases tend to be like tax cases. But this is one where, unfortunately for Officer Vappy and the mayor, the documentary evidence is a compilation of text, romantic type texts between them two, according to the indictment. And then there's the 8th count, which is lying to, making false statements to federal investigators, or as is commonly known as lying to the FBI. And oftentimes, and this is an example of that, there is no crime involved in having a romantic relationship with someone. What the crime, but this romantic relationship, or this alleged romantic relationship, is a factor, not an element of the other crimes, but it is a factor because it explains the motive for some of these things to allegedly happen. Counts 1 through 7, wire fraud, which is essentially a kind of a derivative of payroll fraud, because they allege that Officer Vappy, at the time he was with the mayor in romantic situations, was claiming that he was actually working for the city and on city time doing police work, protection work for the mayor, when the feds say he was actually in a romantic relationship with the mayor. And
that reminds me of Fonnie Willis and Nathan Wade, and because he was not an employee of the county, he was a contractor, then they haven't produced all of the invoices that were paid to him or his other partners that was a part of a team that went to work for the DA office. And so that's what Ashley Merchant had to go to court for, to sue the county and the DA's office in order to get those documents. Also, I like to keep it in the thoughts of people's mind that one of the special prosecutors that she hired has the same name as her father, and that's John Floyd. And he's supposed to be the RICO specialist, yet she did not have him the head of the RICO team. And he worked on the RICO case back with the school teachers, and he said he volunteered for that. Seems almost impossible, but nothing is impossible. But that just seems like it's almost impossible. Regina said, responsibility and accountable is very important in everything. When it goes without any consequences, it will tear and deteriorate the very moral fibers of humanity. So true. And very well said. Okay, so let's go back to these people.
That itemize exactly what hours and days and how much money was involved. They actually seek to recover that in a forfeiture proceeding, which is also part of this indictment. And then the 8th count, which is lying to the FBI or making false statements. It's not one statement, it's multiple statements, and they detail these statements. They all involve his alleged romantic relationship with the mayor. And so it's another example of the cover-up, or the alleged cover-up is always worse than the crime. And this is a shining example of that. And then you mentioned former interim police chief Woodfork. It doesn't mention her by name, but it also doesn't mention Cantrell by name, but it identifies them in terms that no one else in the universe could possibly be public official 1 or the former interim police chief. And it suggests, or it says, and leaves a very strong implication that the reason that Michelle Woodfork did not get the permanent job is because she wouldn't sweep this under the rug.
Yeah, Clancy, there are obviously some explosive allegations in this indictment, and we're going to be checking back in with you in the next days and weeks as we move forward in covering this. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay, investigative reporter Mike Perlstein, he's been following this case closely. He's joining us now in the studio with these really stunning allegations, Mike.
Well, Katie and Therese, when it comes to political and police news in New Orleans, we often find ourselves saying that facts are almost too wild to be believed. Now, in this indictment charging the mayor's longtime bodyguard, it's a classic example of just that. 14 out-of-town excursions, including trips to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Scotland. Meals and drinks at local restaurants. Love notes written and sent while nursing a cocktail. That would be material for a romance novel, but in New Orleans today, those are just a few of the details included in an 8-count federal indictment against the mayor's former NOPD bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy.
And we know that in this particular case, the mayor and Officer Vappy were communicating via cell phones, and we know that the government has those communications.
Those text messages and pictures are cited as evidence by federal authorities in its 16-page indictment that charges Vappy with 7 counts of wire fraud for collecting city pay for his private time with Cantrell, as well as 1 count of lying to the FBI for denying he was having a romantic relationship with the mayor. The indictment spells out the dates and dollar amounts, more than $7,000 altogether, that Vappy collected a paycheck for time he is accused of being with the mayor privately. The indictment also estimates Vappy's city-paid travel expenses with the mayor at more than $47,000. Vappy's denials to FBI agents in July 2023 matched his denials when he was asked earlier that year by internal police investigators looking into Vappy's irregular hours and activities with the mayor.
Is there a personal relationship as defined in Chapter 13.38 that you have with your protectee?
The answer to that is no. This is people using my ability to be professional and accommodating against me to create a picture to make it seem like there's something else going on other than what it is.
The government not only says it has cell phone evidence revealing the romantic relationship, but also efforts by Vappy to cover it up.
There's also references in here that Officer Vappy and the mayor discussed deleting all of their message to attempt to conceal any evidence.
Now, Katie and Therese, we do know that Vappy has hired former U.S. Attorney Harry Rosenberg to represent him. I called Rosenberg for comment today, but he has yet to respond.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. And today's indictment of Mayor Cantrell's bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy, is part of a larger federal grand jury investigation into the mayor that really dates back years.
Yeah, WWL Louisiana investigator David Hammer has been breaking stories about that probe for years, joining us now in studio to explain, really, David, how today's development fits in.
Yeah, Katie and Therese, we've seen this before in other federal corruption investigations. One person is indicted for his dealings with a public official, and it leads to even more for federal prosecutors. And once again, sources tell us to expect the indictment of Jeffrey Vappy to be just the tip of the iceberg for Mayor Cantrell.
The indictment of Jeffrey Vappy doesn't mention the name LaToya Cantrell, but she's in there on 12 of the 16 pages as public official 1. Sources tell us her role in Vappy's alleged fraud scheme is just the beginning. The grand jury has been looking at Cantrell's business dealings since at least the summer of 2022. That's when we first heard the grand jury issued subpoenas for financial records relating to Cantrell's stylist, Tanya Blunt Haynes. Haynes had made thousands of dollars of purchases for Cantrell and was paid by her mayoral campaign. In September 2022, WWL Louisiana broke the story that Cantrell was essentially living in a city-owned Pontalba apartment. In November 2022, news coverage began focusing on the time Vappy spent in the apartment with Cantrell, and the indictment alleges Vappy and the mayor spent the next several months trying to cover up their romantic relationship. In December 2023, we learned the feds were looking into Cantrell's dealings with 3 local developers who supported her campaigns. 2 of those businessmen were convicted felons and business partners, Randy Farrell and Fouad Ziton. Sources said the feds seized Ziton's phone and found text messages with the mayor and with Farrell. In March of this year, we learned the feds were looking at Farrell's effort to get a top city official who was investigating him fired. And earlier this week, sources told us Farrell paid for tickets for Cantrell to the 2019 NFC Championship game, as well as meals and a new smartphone. Just a few days after Farrell asked the mayor to fire Jennifer Cecil, the mayor did just that.
Now, sources expect Farrell to be indicted soon for giving the mayor gifts in exchange for firing Cecil. Farrell's attorney, Rick Simmons, said his client has already pled guilty on unrelated tax charges and paid more than $700,000 in restitution.
All right, thank you, David. And we do plan to stay close to this case as it plays out in court. We'll have updates for you on our website, WWLTV.com, as well as our free mobile app.
And you are so right, Regina. Just plumb foolishness. It's just amazing what people are willing to do. And I don't know how they think they can get away with it, but I don't think they even think that they can get away with it. I think they don't care because, well, maybe they think they're power. And that's where that power comes in. That, you know, everybody is beneath them, so they can just, you know, wield it anywhere. And, you know, it's that's just how it is. Because that's how the game has been played for many, many years. And we were not players in the game. So that we don't really understand the concept. But wrong is wrong and right is right, and it doesn't matter who's doing it. And this is the last thing that I'm going to play about the mayor of New Orleans, because it just takes me back to the DA of Fulton County. And it's interesting how this one played out. Hold on.
Mayor LaToya Cantrell publicly addresses a divorce filing that claims she had an affair with a former member of her security team, calling the allegations false.
Now, in this divorce filing, Jeffrey Vappy's wife claims her husband admitted to having an affair with, quote, Mrs. LC, end of quote, whose sources confirmed to Fox 8 is LaToya Cantrell. Today, Cantrell said she's not involved.
Sure. So first of all, that is a personal matter as it relates to the Vappy family. And actually, it's none of my business and quite frankly, none of yours. As it relates to my involvement or the false allegations, you know, I've responded to that. I get them all the time and they just haven't stopped. It's really interesting. They just haven't stopped and I really don't expect them to. As I've stated, you know, based on the false allegations that come my way. By the time I finish this job, literally, accused of sleeping with half of the city of New Orleans, both genders and all pronouns. I'm known as T sometimes and then T other times. So with that, false allegations do not, that's basically all I have to say about it.
The response comes after a series of Fox 8 investigations that showed Mayor Cantrell and Vappy spending hours during the workday and some late nights alone in the city-owned Upper Pontalba apartment. A day after our first story aired in November, Vappy's wife filed for divorce. Last week, we reported that she amended the divorce petition to include details of an alleged extramarital affair between Vappy and Mrs. L.C., who again sources confirm is LaToya Cantrell. The filing lists several days in which Vappy's wife details the two, quote, engaged in a sexual relationship. Many of those days were the same dates we highlighted in our investigations, where Vappy and Cantrell spent hours alone together in the apartment. Experts tell Fox 8 any relationship would likely violate NOPD and city policy. Vappy was reassigned as our stories began to air and as the NOPD investigates his timesheets.
Yes, she did say that, Regina. Regina said, oops, did she just say it's nobody's business? You can always tell the guilty. They go 10 toes down to defend their wrongs once caught and exposed. She started getting defensive and unprofessional. Yeah, and this is, I say, this thing that they call doxing, I guess that's, it's prevalent everywhere, because this is a situation where this young lady that the mayor actually tried to file a TPO against said she was stalking her. They leaked her information out to the public. And so this is that portion. I think I have another one. I thought I had Fonnie up here, but I didn't put any of hers up here. This is all about the mayor, I believe. So here we go.
An outside law firm is investigating complaints against 3 NOPD officers and retired officer Jeffrey Vappy, who was on Mayor Cantrell's security detail. The investigation comes after the attorney for Ann Burrow, who Cantrell failed to seek a temporary restraining order against, filed a complaint with NOPD's Public Integrity Bureau, accusing the officers of leaking his client's personal information.
Ms. Burrow wants to know who put her information out there, who is responsible, who is in the chain, one or more parties that put her information out there.
The petition for the TRO included Burrow's social security number, an outdated OMV photo, and arrest information in which Burrow's attorney says she was the victim.
That's information that can only be accessed by law enforcement. Yet that was contained in the mayor's civil filings in this.
Breaux's attorney, Justin Schmidt, says he learned Monday NOPD was already looking into one of their officers for their alleged involvement.
I was pleasantly surprised when we got the email yesterday from the Transcendent Law Group that is investigating these claims, because it had, in that, it conveyed that there actually was another investigation that we were unaware of.
Schmidt says he's cautiously optimistic about the results of the investigation.
I suspect when we have enough information, there'll be some additional litigation forthcoming.
We reached out to the mayor's office and NOPD. The mayor's office directed us to NOPD, who says they don't comment on open PIB investigations. Susie, Kurt?
All right, we'll wait for the next step. Thanks, Jordan.
Regina, I was trying to respond to your text. You funny. I swear, I don't think it's nothing he could have done about that. I was trying to respond to your last chat. Okay, so now that brings us to the end of all of these good people. And I had a few that I wanted to remind us of these other good people that we love to talk about over on this channel. I want to start with this one.
Let's talk about Tennessee. You booked a cabin in August 2023 and paid for a cabin in Tennessee. That's when you paid for it. I don't know when the trip was. Can you tell us about that?
August of 2023.
You booked a trip for $1,481.54.
Are you asking me, did I take that trip with Miss Willis, or are you asking me?
First, I was just asking you to acknowledge that that is correct from the records, that you paid for a cabin in Tennessee. Do you recall, and hopefully you can do it from your memory, do you recall paying for a cabin 6 months ago, $1,400.81 in Tennessee?
Where are we now? What page is that?
I'm just asking from your memory. Do you remember paying for a cabin in August?
Not if he's going to be asked about a particular transaction.
You can answer whether he remembers or not.
Mr. Wade, I'm not asking you to go through 1,000 pages of records. I'm asking if you remember paying for a cabin 6 months ago in Tennessee.
No.
You remember booking a cabin?
I booked lots of cabins.
Did you go to a cabin with Miss Willis ever?
Ever?
Ever.
No.
You've never gone to a cabin with Ms. Willis?
No.
Have you ever gone to Tennessee with Ms. Willis?
Yes.
Okay. When was that?
That was around 2022, early 2022.
Early 2022? Okay.
It was a day trip.
Okay, so you didn't spend the night?
So it was a day trip.
Okay.
We would drive there, have lunch, drive back. The reason we would do that is because the attention, she couldn't get any peace of mind going locally, so we'd get in my car and drive to someplace off the beat path and have lunch and drive back.
Is that when you went to Fainting Goat with her? It's in Jasper, Georgia.
No, that's in Georgia. I don't recall going to Fainting Goat with her.
So the Tennessee day trips were only Tennessee?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever do these day trips in Georgia?
Did we drive anywhere in Georgia?
Yeah, you were talking about day trips going out.
We cannot forget these moments in time. These are the moments that actually is shaping the history for our future. These are the type of things that they will look back at. Let me see. Here's a good one. I was trying to find just little short ones to remind us of the corruption.
In Atlanta today, now raising new questions about Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and the relationship that she had with the special prosecutor that she hired to oversee the election interference case against former President Donald Trump. Cell phone data obtained by Trump's legal team shows Nathan Wade, that special prosecutor, visited Willis's neighborhood at least 35 times in the 11 months before Willis hired him in late 2021. Twice, Wade arrived late at night and left early the following morning. The data shows about 2,000 calls and 12,000 text messages between Wade and Willis from January to November 2021. Why this matters, the timeline is everything in this case. Joining me now on the phone is former Assistant District Attorney of Fulton County, Daryl Cohen. Daryl, thanks for joining us. We sat and watched as this hearing originally started. What do you make of these new revelations?
This is damning. At the very best, it's troubling. It
seems to completely contradict the testimony of both Fonnie Willis and of Nathan Wade. And because of that, this could be a complete game changer in terms of how Judge McAfee decides to rule.
The timeline here. The timeline is extremely important. Get viewers up to speed about why this timeline matters.
Well, it matters because the testimony has been that Fonnie Willis and Nathan Wade became friends. They met at a conference, and he was hired before any of this took place, and that they did not have any type of relationship other than completely a business relationship. Now, if these texts and if these pings on the telephone are accurate, that changes the entire ball game and means that there could be some untruth that's been told under oath. In other words, it could be perjury, and I hope it isn't,
And
because
so,
this is very sad.
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of the matter, really, then, in this case right now, this has nothing to do with the actual case against Donald Trump and the other co-defendants in the election interference case. This is all to do with if Fonnie Willis, the district attorney, benefited financially from hiring who we know now ended up being her boyfriend. So that's why the timeline of this is so important. If it happened before, then there's a problem. If it happens after, it might be a problem as far as optics are concerned, but not necessarily something that would get the office kicked off this case. Now, let's just say the Fonnie Willis's entire office gets removed from this case. What happens next?
Then it goes to the prosecutor's counsel, and they locate a district attorney's office who is capable and willing of prosecuting the case. That could be near impossible. Clayton County District Attorney has already said she cannot handle it. That leaves DeKalb County, Cobb County, and that's about it, because it has to be a large office that has the ability and the people to prosecute it, and the budget, because the budget's going to just explode with this type of case.
So you're saying it could get thrown out altogether?
I'm not saying that, but it could. This is predictably unpredictable.
Right.
None of this had been predicted, but it's taking on a case. It's a case that's taking on its own course, and we have no idea why it did what it did, but it's taking on a life of its own. So as each revelation unfolds, it becomes more and more troubling.
I'm not sure you stopped talking yet because I can't hear you at this moment, but...
Oh, I'm sorry. I can hear.
No, that's not you. That's not you. Did Fonnie Willis, didn't she know that they would be able to get these records?
You know something? I think some of us, when affairs of the heart get in the way of affairs of the mind, we don't believe that we're visible. We think we're invisible and invincible. And I like Fonnie very much, but I am so disappointed in what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. And we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But every day is a new revelation, some good, some bad, depending on which side you're looking at. But it doesn't change the facts in the Trump case. It does change who may or may not prosecute it, whether it will or will not be prosecuted, whether or not it will delay the prosecution. If Fonnie is no longer on the case, if her office is no longer allowed to prosecute the case, then it will delay things immeasurably.
Daryl Cohen, thanks so much for joining us. Your insight is invaluable, and we'll keep watching this for sure. And we are now awaiting President Biden to speak at the governor's meeting. He's there now?
And right now, all eyes are on a Fulton County courtroom where a hearing could determine whether District Attorney Fani Willis will stay on the election. Donald Trump. So this hearing is focusing on whether Willis's relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade poses any interest.
11 Alive's Grace King has an update now from the Fulton County Courthouse.
Well, the biggest question today is when Nathan Wade and District Attorney Fani Willis started their romantic relationship. In the last hour or so, Wade testifying is about March months after he was appointed special prosecutor. He also said it wasn't an affair because his marriage was long over.
In 2015, my marriage was irretrievably broken. So I did not have a relationship with anyone in the course of my marriage.
When did romantic relationship with Miss Willis end?
2022.
When? In 2022.
Early 2022.
Now that contradicts what we heard from Robert Yurdy this morning. Yurdy says she was a close friend of Willis's for about 30 years until Yurdy left the district attorney's office on tense terms in 2022. She says there is, quote, no doubt that Willis and Wade had a romantic relationship prior to November 2021.
Did you observe them do things that are common among people having a romantic relationship?
Yes.
Such as, can you give us an example?
Hugging, kissing, just affection.
All before November 1st of 2021, correct?
Yes.
Now, Wade still on the stand answering questions about the trips he and District Attorney Fani Willis took and who paid for them. We'll have more on those transactions coming up at 4, 5, and 6 tonight.
And we have been following this case very closely. If you want a link to watch today's hearings, we can send it straight to your phone. Just text Fani Willis to the number on your screen. That is 404-885-7600.
Suddenly, he's changing. She files her financial declarations, same problems. We need a ready here to go over all of this and to explain exactly what happened. So we was asked the court that the court allow Ms. Willis to be called and interrogated on these matters.
And I would, to Your Honor.
Just a moment, Ms. Willis. So, Ms. Cross, I don't know if you want to speak with Ms. Willis now. It's sounding like maybe they're withdrawing the objection to the motion.
I'm happy to leave the motion to.
Or does Ms. Willis want to take the lead here?
We'll withdraw the motion to quash Ms. Willis.
Based on the. I'm ready to go.
Okay. So, the position of the district attorney at this point is that she's no longer contesting the subpoena. Ms. Merchant has called her as the next witness.
I would ask, I need 3 documents in front of me, and they're the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant.
3 filings?
Does anyone have the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant? Does the court have the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant?
When you say the filings, you mean like the pleadings?
The pleadings, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I think we could locate those for you. I mean, the supplemental.
I want the one filed on January the 8th, the one filed immediately after we filed ours, and the final one.
If you want to take a break to get them, I can make a copy. I think we have one.
You know, the only copy I have is going to have my notes on it. So if we don't have a clean copy.
We have a 5-minute break, Your Honor.
Let's
I'll
take
get the documents.
All right.
I'll sit here and wait for him.
Now, this is our news station here, Fox 4 in Dallas.
There was defiant and fiery testimony during a hearing in the Georgia election interference case against former President Donald Trump. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis repeatedly attacked Trump's attorneys when they were questioning her about misconduct allegations. They're trying to have her disqualified from the case. They accuse her of benefiting financially from a relationship with the lead prosecutor who she hired to manage the case, and the two became romantically involved. Fox's Randy Travis reports.
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Willis?
You see.
Mr. Sanders.
Rarely does a prosecutor in a criminal case get questioned under oath by the defendant's attorneys. But it was clear long ago the election interference case against Donald Trump and 14 others now is no typical prosecution.
We're talking about professionalism. No, while we're talking about professionalism, she put in 3 different documents. He lived with me.
Full opportunity to respond.
A defiant Fani Willis testified she and Nathan Wade dated for about a year after she brought him in as a special prosecutor. But they've done nothing improper, she says, and she did not benefit financially from the relationship.
In the first 3 months of 2021, when I could still enjoy my home, Mr. Wade never came to South Fulton, and it is certainly a lie that he lived with me.
Wade testified his marriage was irretrievably broken in 2015, but he and his wife decided to stay together until their children were out of school.
When did your romantic relationship with Miss Willis begin?
2022.
When? In 2022.
Early 2022.
That would have been after he was hired by Willis to manage the racketeering case against Donald Trump and others. Wade said the two didn't travel together before then, and they roughly split vacation expenses, with Willis paying him back in cash.
You don't have a single solitary deposit slip to corroborate or support any of your allegations that you were paid by Mrs. Willis in cash, do you?
No, sir.
Not a single solitary one.
Not a one.
Willis confirms she reimbursed Wade in cash, explaining her father always advised her to keep 6 months cash on hand since she's a single woman.
I don't know why this old black man feels like that, but he does. When we were growing up, my daddy had 3 safes in the house. So my father's bought me a lockbox, and I always keep cash in the house.
Defense attorneys argue Willis only hired Wade, paying him more than $650,000 so far, so she could get a financial benefit from all those trips. But throughout her testimony, Willis was defiant.
I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
Randy Travis, Fox News.
And this is while Nathan was going around making his world tour. This is what happened at his interview.
What is your current relationship with the district attorney?
Just as outlined earlier, we are great friends. We speak regularly. The conversation has changed, though. Whereas before, our conversations were about this case. I'm sure you could imagine and appreciate the amount of time that it takes that you have to pour into a case, a case of this magnitude, trying to prosecute those defendants. But our conversations have shifted to how are you? How are you handling the threats that are coming your way? Are you being safe? And the case will live on, kind of thing.
Just to clarify, when did the romantic relationship between the two of you start?
Yeah, so we get into. There's been this effort to say that, okay, the issue and these exact dates are. I'm getting signaled here.
Yeah, take it. Do I go off mic for a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep rolling?
Yeah, keep rolling. Don't stop down there.
Everything okay?
Yeah.
Just to revisit the question, it was to clarify when the romantic relationship started and when it ended.
Sure. So, I believe that the public has, through the testimony and other interviews, the public has a clear snapshot that this is clearly just a distraction. It is not a relevant issue in this case, and I think that we should be focusing on more of the facts and the indictment in the case.
Well, I ask because obviously it's still a pending matter. It's going to be before the Court of Appeals, and you talked about how proud you were of all the work that you did in this office. And I think the question that people have when they hear from the Court of Appeals, this isn't happening until next spring, is did the relationship jeopardize that work that you did in this investigation?
And therein lies the issue. Why we wouldn't touch upon the work of the Court of Appeals or some higher court, because it's a pending issue before them. I think that we should allow them, take a step back and allow them to take the evidence that they have and do their work, make the decision.
Right, but you did testify to this, and you were asked on the stand about when it started and when it ended. It just wasn't completely clear, because before it said before the indictment, which was August 15th here in Atlanta, and then later the answer was at the end of that year. And so I think that was the clarity that people were seeking of when it started and when it ended.
Sure, and there again, there's a question before the court, and that is the crux of the question. I don't choose to say or do anything that would jeopardize the case or the court's ruling. I prefer to allow them to make their decision based upon what they have and accept it.
Do you believe, as you reflect on this, that your relationship with the district attorney was a mistake?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I believe is this whole conversation is a distraction. That's all. It's a tool to stop the train, to slow down the inevitable, which is the trial of the defendants named in the election interference case.
Do you believe the trial ultimately happens?
Absolutely. Absolutely it happens.
Mr. Wade, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having
Okay. Regina said, wondering how was the conversation turned into a romantic one? What y'all talk about then, Nathan? Sealing and silencing your wife in the divorce? When to hook up? What to say to who? Money? Regina, you on the road tonight. That's a good one. Your actions have jeopardized your entire relationship with your children forever. Yes, he ain't like he doesn't know that. It's just amazing. Well, as we were doing on the last show, and I told y'all, in my opinion, the way this judge wrote her order, she took away all of the judicial misconduct, and she took away all of the prosecutorial misconduct. And I started reading it, and I'm going to finish reading it, how she came to the determination to recuse Judge Biasville. Now, we also must understand, Fonnie Willis is the DA, so she's over this case as well. She had to sign that paper in order for them to offer, force immunity, use immunity on Mr. Kenneth Copeland. And Mr. Kenneth Copeland did an interview with the Danza Project, and that is an excellent interview. Real or imagined, whether he's lying or telling the truth, it's an excellent, excellent interview. And I really enjoyed listening to the interview because he spoke on issues of inner city boys trying to grow to men, and opportunities that they don't have, and the way the police target them, and the things he's gone through in his life. So everything he's saying cannot be a lie, because we see it throughout urban neighborhoods all over America. And it shows a human side of him, real or imagined. I thought it was an excellent interview. And it's the Danza Project. It's the show that he was on. And you guys should check that interview out. And I seen some guy who showed it, and he had some beautiful music in the background. I don't even know who the guy was, but I'll try to see if I can find it and put the link inside of the description. So let me go and finish her so I can tell y'all what Mr. Steele filed on Friday. So on June 10th, 2024 at approximately 9:10 a.m., Judge Glanville met with counsel for the state, Adrian Love, and stand-in counsel for Mr. Copeland, Kayla Bumpus. The meeting took place at Judge Glanville's chambers. Counsel for the trial defendants did not participate in the meeting and were not aware that the meeting was taking place. The transcript reflects that Miss Love told Judge Glanville that she wanted the meeting to both impress upon Mr. Copeland the risk of refusing to testify and allow Mr. Copeland to ask questions before he testified. Well, that's a lie, because originally they were saying they called the meeting because of the danger. They felt his life was in danger. But the way Mr. Steele wrote up the motions and the supplement motion, they had to change that all together. Yeah, Maria, it was an excellent interview, for real. It was really good. And I think people should hear it. Boys should hear it. Again, whether it's the truth or a lie, he says everything he says is a lie. We know that's not true. But what he was saying is, when he's talking to those police, he's got to say whatever he's got to say to get out. I'm not in on the snitch or the non-snitch. People can say what they want to say. But people are going to do what they got to do to take care of themselves, and that's everybody. So if people don't understand that, then that's on them. Now, there are some people that'll go down for whatever, and that's on them. Because, again, it's the consequences of your actions. And if you're willing to suffer them, then who am I to tell you not to suffer your consequences. But most people are going to take that self-preservation and start looking out for self. Not all, but most. Okay. The transcript reflects that Miss Love told Judge Glanville that she wanted the meeting to both impress upon Mr. Copeland the risk of refusing to testify and allow Mr. Copeland to ask questions before he testified. Ms. Love also expressed concerns to Judge Glanville about Mr. Copeland's representation, which had nothing to do with her, about his representation. Ms. Bumpus, Ms. Love, and Judge Glanville all discussed the scope and effect of the state's grant of immunity to Mr. Copeland. And that was the forced immunity, use immunity, which was the worst one out of the three. Mr. Copeland was then brought to Judge Glanville's chamber, where he spoke with and asked questions of Ms. Bumpers, Judge Glanville, and Simone Hilton. So they said it was privileged conversation, but yet the judge was there, Ms. Hilton was there, who's one of the DAs, and some of the people from the DA's office was there, along with police officers. How is that a privileged conversation? Footnote number 4, she says, 2 investigators from the DA's office and multiple deputies were also present, as well as 1 or more members of Judge Glanville's staff, including his court reporter, who took down the conference. The certified transcript was filed into the record on July 1st, 2024. First, he had denied them that he was going to do any of that. So, from the last, she said, Simone Hilton, counsel for the state who had joined the meeting. During that time, the state advised Mr. Copeland that he could remain in custody until the conclusion of the trials of all defendants in the case, not just the 6 currently on trial. Judge Glanville discussed OCGA and 245507 with Mr. Copeland and his rights and responsibilities after a grant of immunity. Mr. Copeland spoke privately with his stand-in counsel, Ms. Bumpus, and then advised the court that he would testify. How do you speak privately when all those people are in the room? After the meeting, and immediately before Mr. Copeland was brought out to testify, Defendant Williams' lawyer, Brian Steele, advised the court that he was aware of the in-chambers meeting that morning. Mr. Steele objected to the ex parte meeting, and a lengthy colloquy occurred between Mr. Steele and Judge Glanville, in which Judge Glanville inquired how Mr. Steele became aware of the chambers meeting. Mr. Steele declined to reveal the source of his information, and Judge Glanville held him in contempt. Though Mr. Steele was allowed to remain in the courtroom on behalf of his client, Defendant Williams, ultimately, Kenneth Copeland did testify on June 10, 2024, and was later released from custody. So they let Mr. Copeland go home, which he should have never been locked up. He was only a witness. They forced him to testify because he wanted to take the fifth. And then he locked up Mr. Steele, and he did take him in custody. She said that like he just stayed in the courtroom. He had to leave and come back. So she's covering a colleague. And you know, people say, well, people do that all the time, but then your duty is to the Constitution, not to the colleague. And if you're going to do that, then you're not integral either. And you're certainly not upholding your oath of office and your oath to the Constitution. Because you have an oath of office with ethics, and then you have the oath to the Constitution that you say that you will defend. But you're not doing that when you do this. This is horrible. But see, we get caught up in the minutia. So most of us as Asiatic individuals, we're just so happy that he's gone. He's gone. No, you better look at what's happening. Because if she would have been fair and dealt with all of the judicial misconduct, she not only would have recused him, but she could have issued the mistrial. But she refused to do that. What she did was write this long nothing and then sound like she was apologizing for having to take him off the case. The next day, Judge Glanville issued a show cause order requiring everyone present at the ex parte meeting to appear and show cause as to why they should not be held in contempt for disclosing information about the ex parte meeting to defense counsel. An amended show cause order was later entered setting July 1st, 2024, and I guess I could be showing this while I'm reading it. Okay. I don't know how I did it the other day, but who cares? Alrighty, so let me keep going. The first motion to recuse filed by Diamante Kendricks on June 12, 2024, and she has a footnote 5. Mr. Kendrick's motion seeks to recuse Judge Glanville for his involvement in the allegedly improper and coercive ex parte meeting with the state. On June 14, 2024, Judge Glanville denied the motion. Judge Glanville determined the recusal motion was timely, supported by an affidavit, and on a cursory review contains assertions of fact to support the allegations of bias and partiality. However, Judge Glanville ultimately determined that because there was no way to verify the veracity of the information contained in the affidavit, and there was no actual evidence of the extent of the discussion during the in-chambers meeting, the affidavit was legally insufficient, and the motion to recuse did not require referral to another judge for consideration ID. Judge Glanville was wrong, and so is she. On June 14, 2024, Kayla Bumpus then filed a motion to quash the show cause order and or to recuse Judge Glanville from presiding over any contempt action against Ms. Bumpus, resulting from alleged disclosure of the ex parte meeting, footnote number 6. On June 17, 2024, Jeffrey Williams filed his motion to recuse Judge Glanville. And then it tells you to look at Williams' docket number. Divorce from the hyperbole. So she said that what Mr. Steele wrote was just a bunch of exaggerated bull malarkey. And so Mr. Williams' motion and supplement also seek to recuse Judge Glanville because of his involvement in the ex parte meeting. She's calling all of the judicial misconduct and prosecutorial misconduct hyperbole. And I know that she's talking about the words that he used to describe the actions that they took. Those actions are just as real. And he gave her, the videos that she could go and look at them. So it was real. Which Mr. Williams also alleges was improper and coercive. And I'm going to read number 5 footnote and number 6. Technically, Mr. Steele's counsel moved to recuse Judge Glanville from further handling of the contempt action during the June 10th proceedings. However, that motion was made orally, and it is not before the court because Mr. Steele's contempt matter is currently pending before the Supreme Court. Number 6, although referred to the court for consideration, Bumpus' motion to recuse is both premature and moot because Ms. Bumpus has not yet been held in contempt and because on July 1st, Judge Glanville canceled the show cause hearing. So Mr. Williams' motion alleges both actual bias and the appearance of bias because Judge Glanville allegedly participated in the accusatory process when he met with Mr. Copeland, and Judge Glanville became embroiled in a controversy when he held Mr. Williams' lawyer, Mr. Brian Steele, in contempt. On July 1st, 2024, the day appointed for the parties to review a redacted transcript of the ex parte meeting, Judge Glanville announced that he was releasing the entirety of the transcript of the ex parte meeting and was taking judicial notice of and making a record regarding certain matters associated with the ex parte meeting. Most of what Judge Glanville relayed was a collation of record evidence about the recent circumstances in the case. Judge Glanville also explained how he became aware of the state's request for an ex parte meeting. Well, we all know how he became aware of the state's ex parte meeting. I believe they had too, because she said it Friday in open court before they left for the day. And I believe they had a meeting that day. And then the second meeting happened that morning, which they had already discussed that Friday. So he can stop that. In addressing the circumstances of the contempt against Mr. Steele, Judge Glanville explained the court's purpose and concern in pursuing information about the security and confidentiality of his chambers. Judge Glanville advised that he had not instigated an investigation into surveillance footage, but had reviewed such footage for timeline and security. Now, why he said that is because he pretends somebody just brought him the footage of Kayla Bumpus in the hallway speaking with Mr. Steele and Mr. Short, who's another defense attorney of another defendant. But he's wanting to say he didn't ask them to do that because, of course, that would be improper. But I call it CYA, and that's all he did, and that's all she did. Judge Glanville then explained his view that the ex parte meeting was proper under Georgia law and outlined relevant law that supported his inherent authority to hold such a meeting. Judge Glanville maintained that no one gained a tactical advantage as a result of the ex parte nature of the meeting, and that's not true. Judge Glanville also questioned defendants' right to be present at the ex parte meeting because the issue under discussion was between the state and a witness, where the judge was present who shouldn't have been, who was represented by counsel. After making this record, Judge Glanville announced that the show cause hearing was canceled and that the recusal motions filed by Mr. Kendrick, Mr. Williams, and Ms. Bumpers were being referred for consideration by another judge in accordance with Uniform Superior Court Rule 25.1 through 25.7, which is what they asked him to do before they had sent it up to the Supreme Court. And because the Supreme Court chose to send it back to Superior Court, they said they had to follow the process and then they could hear it. Then he knew he had to do the right thing. The motions to recuse were then assigned to this court for consideration. Legal framework. Here she goes, lying in a nice, nasty, truthful way. Motions to recuse are governed by a specific legal framework outlined in Rule 25 of the Uniform Rules of Superior Court. A party seeking recusal must file a timely motion supported by an affidavit clearly stating the facts and reasons for the belief that bias or prejudice exists. USCR 25.1 to 25.2. The affidavit must be definite and specific and describe circumstances of extrajudicial conduct or statements which demonstrate either bias in favor of any adverse party or prejudice toward the moving party in particular, or a systemic pattern of prejudicial conduct toward persons similarly suited to the moving party, which would influence the judge and impede or prevent impartiality in that action. All of that happened, and he gave her the videos to prove it, but she just overlooked all of that. USCR 25.2, bare conclusions and opinions are not legally sufficient to support the motion or warrant further proceedings, ID. Once such a motion is filed, it is the duty of the assigned judge to temporarily cease to act upon the merits of the matter and assess the timeliness and legal sufficiency of the affidavit and alleged facts. USC R 25.3. If all three criteria are met, i.e., the motion is timely, supported by an affidavit, and the facts alleged might warrant recusal, another judge shall be assigned to hear the motion to recuse, ID. When considering a motion to recuse, the assigned judge should be guided by Rule 2.11 of the Revised Code of Judicial Conduct, which provides that judges shall disqualify themselves in any proceeding in which their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Then she gave the case law. The standard is objective from the perspective of a reasonable, fair-minded, and impartial person rather than the affected judge or other interested parties, ID. If a motion to recuse satisfies the three threshold criteria, the assigned judge must refer the motion for reassignment and may not oppose the motion. He didn't do that. He did the total opposite. And then she gave the case law. The judge whose recusal is sought may not respond to the motion or attempt to refute the allegations, which stand denied automatically, no matter how false or even defamatory the judge might know or perceive the allegations to be. And they give the case law. A judge cannot become actively involved in presenting evidence or argument against the motion seeking his recusal without the defense itself becoming a basis for recusal. And she gave the case law. A judge has no interest in sitting on a particular case. At most, his interest lies in protecting his own reputation. His efforts at defending himself against the motion to recuse will inevitably create an appearance of partiality. One reason is that if he defends himself, he becomes an adversary of the movement for recusal. This adversarial posture may create an antipathy which persists after the motion to recuse is denied. And then we go to the footnote number 7. See also Richard E. Flam, Judicial Disqualification, Recusal and Disqualification of Judges, 15.7 at 435. A judge who personally refutes a party's allegations of judicial bias may appear to a reasonable person to have exhibited a personal interest in the outcome of the litigation, or to have aligned himself with, it's going to be down here, the party resisting the judge's disqualification. And by attempting to refute a charge of bias, a judge may become, or appear to have become, an adversary of the party seeking his disqualification. So, in analysis and decision. Here, Judge Glanville had previously announced on the record that the motion was timely and supported by an affidavit. In transferring the cases to another judge for consideration, Judge Glanville necessarily determined that the third criteria was satisfied, i.e., that recusal might be authorized if the facts alleged in the motion were assumed true. Therefore, Judge Glanville was required to refer the motion for reassignment and was prohibited from opposing the motion. It is worth noting that this court agrees generally with Judge Glanville's assessment of the propriety of the ex parte meeting. While the meeting could have and perhaps should have taken place in open court, nothing about the fact of the meeting or the substance discussed was inherently improper. That lady is wrong as two left shoes. However, in his order denying defendant Kendrick's motion and in the process of making his record on July 1st, 2024, Judge Glanville added facts, provided context, questioned the veracity of allegations, and otherwise explained his decisions and actions and argued why those actions were proper. While it may be appropriate for the judge to disclose information relevant to his potential recusal. Such a disclosure must be made in a way that is as objective, dispassionate, and non-argumentative as possible, so that the judge is not reasonably perceived as a hostile witness or advocate, gave case law. In presenting his record as to the recusal issues and in ruling on Kendrick's motion, Judge Glanville evaluated and accepted the truth of his own factual allegations mandating his recusal, which he gave the case law. This court has no doubt that Judge Glanville can and would continue presiding fairly over this matter if the recusal motions were denied. But the necessity of preserving the public's confidence in the judicial system weighs in favor of excusing Judge Glanville from further handling of this case. Based on the foregoing, this court hereby orders as follows. Defendant DeMonte Kendrick's motion to recuse Chief Judge Earl Glanville is granted. Number 2, Caleb Bumpus' motion to quash to show cause order and or to recuse Judge Glanville is denied as moot. Number 3, Defendant Jeffrey Williams' motion to disqualify recuse Judge Glanville from all further dealings in the above referenced case as amended and supplemented is granted. And number 4, the clerk of the court shall reassign this case using the court's case assignment procedures. It is so ordered this 15th day of July, 2024. And that's the Honorable Rachel Krause. And I would have to question her like I do Judge Glanville. And then footnote 8 is to see this case. A judge who actively resists recusal may be fully capable of even-handedly presiding if the motion is denied. So, now that's what she did, and I think, like I said, she was wrong as two left shoes on that. So what Mr. Steele did, because she left out all of the prosecutorial and judicial misconduct, then what he did was wanted to just remind the court. Let me see. Let me stop sharing this. And let me go down for a minute. Let me look at something. It's 1 minute. Where are these? I want to. I was able to do this the other day. I don't know if I can do it today. But let's try it. Okay. So this is what Mr. Steele found. And he found motion to challenge factual findings not result of the Honorable Judge Krause's order dated July 15, 2024, granting the motion to recuse Judge Glanville. So he's happy that she did the recusal, but what he wants to do is the factual findings, because she took out all of the stuff that to me and to him and most of America she should have left in. So the name of the motion is motion to challenge factual findings, not results. I just read that. Come now, Mr. Jeffrey Williams, by and through undersigned counsel, and hereby files this motion to challenge factual findings not result of the Honorable Judge Krause's order dated July 15, 2024, granting the motions to recuse Judge Glanville in the above referenced case. In support of this motion, Mr. Williams shows as follows. Number 1. Mr. Williams is innocent of all crimes in the above referenced indictment. I don't know if I belched or not, if y'all heard it, but if I did, please forgive my belch. I hear grown people say burp, but children, babies burp, adults belch. So please forgive me. Number 2. The Honorable Judge Krause made 2 findings that are respectfully erroneous in her order granting the recusal of Judge Glanville dated July 15, 2024. Mr. Williams is not challenging the result of said order, but rather the following. Number 1. Judge Krause wrote, divorced from its hyperbole, Mr. Williams' motion and supplement also seek to recuse Judge Glanville because of his involvement in the ex parte meeting, which Mr. Williams also alleges was improper and coercive. And he told her to see page 5 of 10 of the order dated July 15, 2024, attached here too. There is nothing hyperbolic in Mr. Williams' motion to recuse and affidavit, and Mr. Williams stands by all law and facts therein. Number 2, that it is worth noting that the Honorable Judge Krause agrees generally with Judge Glanville's assessment of the propriety of the ex parte meeting. While the meeting could have, and perhaps should have, taken place in open court, nothing about the fact of the meeting or the substance discussed was inherently improper. See page 9 of 10 of the order dated July 15, 2024, attached here too. This finding is wholly against the law. At this improper ex parte hearing, Mr. Williams and his counsel had a right to be present for several reasons, including but not limited to, number 1, the fact that Mr. Copeland provided statements not only bearing on the substance of his testimony, but also on his credibility. Number 2, there was enormous amounts of Brady evidence shared at this improper ex parte meeting that lawyers Love and Hilton and Judge Glanville all attempted to keep secret from the undersigned counsel. And number 3, there was no lawful reason for this ex parte get together. There are more reasons that these findings by the Honorable Judge Krause are completely erroneous, but same do not affect the outcome of the correct ruling recusing the previous trial judge. Wherefore, Mr. Williams respectfully requests that this motion be spread upon the minutes of the court, and if needed, Mr. Williams stand ready for a hearing on same. Judge Krause order worth noting. And so he put the parts in there. Those are his exhibits that he had with that motion. It seemed like he filed 2 motions. But maybe that was it. I thought I had another one. And perhaps I do. But we've done real good. We're getting up on the 3rd hour. And so I think that we have shared enough this day. I hope that you guys will go and watch that interview because it was really good. You know, we had been looking at some of the things that he showed that was done wrong at the court. So I don't see how that judge, unless she just chose not to look at what he was presenting, and that's the only thing I can say that she did, is she chose not to look at what he was presenting to show all of the prosecutorial misconduct and to show the judge joining in and being a member of the prosecution team and also practicing from the bench. I just don't understand it, but in that lady's mind, she didn't see anything wrong, but we saw a lot wrong with what was going on. And as a matter of fact, I've shown most of these that he's shown, that he put in the document.
That we were providing.
This is one, and one thing I can tell y'all with the new judge, and I truly believe the new judge is just preparing to get ready to give them a mistrial. She just has to go through the process and the formalities. I'm not an attorney and I'm not a lawyer. I don't give legal advice, but I'm just talking about what I see with using my common sense. But, you know, sometimes common ain't so common. But here's where this lady, after they violated that man and forced him to testify, then this woman gets up and accuses Mr. Steele. She accused Mr. Steele of not doing what he was supposed to do by getting them these telephone calls. Now, I want y'all to hear what the judge has to say. When you hear Mr. Steele get very upset, because I don't even know how he kept his cool as long as he did. But, you know, he's saying he gave her everything they had, but he actually gave it to her back in October of 2023. He gave it to her again because they asked for it again. And he stayed at his office until 8 p.m. waiting for their person to come pick it up. And then the judge implies that maybe it wasn't you, it was the people that provided you with the information, and I'll get on them, and they don't want to have to come see me. Well, man, this is the same stuff that they gave before, so I mean, what difference would it make? That was so disrespectful. If you caught that to me, that was just very disrespectful. But I'm going to play it for the three of us that's here, and y'all can tell me what y'all think.
Mr. Steele has not yet provided us the ISO file. We received something additional on a thumb drive last night. We had the deputy of our jail call unit look at that, and we are again missing. We do not have the complete file.
To be able to play
to be able to access it properly, to be able to look at it, authenticate the calls, the time of day, all of that. We don't have it. We were provided last night a thumb drive with cut and pasted file names up under headings, with some additional pieces of a file that would have had to, again, have been deconstructed from the way that the file would have been given to counsel for defendant Williams. We are asking the court to compel defense counsel to turn over to the state the file in the original condition that it was given to them, so that we may properly access and evaluate the content and the time and date and all of that, and the authenticity of those calls on that file. It has been deconstructed, and particular parts of the file have been extracted and purposefully kept out of what is given to the state. So we are asking, again, that the court compel either, you know what? And if they don't want to, then we're asking that they just be excluded.
Okay. All right, Mr. Steele, do you have the raw file?
Judge Glanville,
Sir.
you allow another moment when Miss Love calls me that I did not do something. They have the exact image of what we got from the jail in Fayette County. That is it. And if I get another false allegation and you do nothing, I'm shocked. I'm appalled at you. I sit here day after day with this false allegation just machine. I gave the state everything. There's been no disconstruction. There's been no purposeful, I don't care. I don't care. I give over everything. I've done this for 33 years. Never in my life have I seen a trial. I've done 300 appeals in the state of Georgia alone. I've never read a case like this. Judge, I gave them everything I had. I waited. I was at my office till 8, after 8 last night. I waited for their investigator to come by. I handed him an exact copy of thumb drive. They have everything that we got from the Fayette County Jail. There's been no deconstruction. There's been no purposeful exclusion. This is not the first time. Okay. And I apologize that I'm getting temper, but I've never been treated like this. You talk about professionalism every week. Professionalism is lacking with one lawyer here. It has never been. I don't even like coming to court. I used to love this. I would die for what we do. I used to say, I'm dying. I would die. I couldn't choose a better profession. If I had litigated with Miss Love, I would.
Your Honor, could we strike the hominem attack?
No, I'm
really,
speaking.
could we strike that?
Okay, hey, everybody, calm down. Everybody, both of you, please be seated.
Judge, I'm not
Both
done.
of you, please be seated.
You have to do something. You have threatened me with contempt. You have threatened me with jail. If you go back in time, we can just start in voir dire. Jury after jury, you did individual voir dire painfully. Miss Love would come in and say that juror was crying. It was not true. You would say, that's not my recollection after I said it. You did nothing. We start the case.
But Mr. Steele.
I asked you, please.
Mr. Steele.
Judge, how would you feel if you were being treated
Mr.
like
Steele.
this?
Mr.
Well, I'd
Steele.
like to finish.
Mr. Steele.
I gave them everything on that drive, and it's continual abuse of a prosecutor of another member of the bar. I don't talk with Miss Love, and that's fine. I like that. But Judge, I'm not going to stand here anymore. I don't care. You can take my bar card.
Mr. Steele, listen. But there.
And Mr. Williams, to me, this is an innocent man. You talk about, Miss Love said there's a man in the Fulton County Jail who shouldn't be there, Mr. Copeland. Mr. Williams shouldn't be in custody. But he's been charged, and we come here for a fair trial. It's been everything but that, according to Miss Love has tried to demonize me. At times, Mr. Adams. At times, Mr. Shaw.
I object
now
to the
it's
ad hominem
Mr.
attacks, and I ask for
all
respect.
because she wants to
Again,
win the
from the
case. And now she speaks over people. It's not right. I gave them everything. And by the way, and what I want to tell you, by the way, it's not even the law. If they call that gentleman on direct, I don't have to give them anything before trial. I do it because you asked me to. You said, listen, we got a big case. It's going to take a long time. Give them things. I gave this, by the way, to the state October of 2023. October 2023, that was uploaded, given to the state. I hear about it now, and I wait there, and I give them the exact duplicate of what we have. And now there's a false allegation of misconduct. And what I'm telling the court is what I said again. I do not appreciate it. And you have told it in front of the jury that I'm unprofessional. You were wrong. You based that on Miss Love's false representation.
Your Honor, again, the ad hominem attacks, Your Honor. I object, and he should stop talking when I
Miss Love can
object.
try to silence me. Will not be silenced.
But Mr. Steele, here's the thing. Okay, I think that Mr. Steele, please be quiet at this point in time. You made your point. You made your point at this point in time. Both of you, please be seated. Please be seated, sir.
Well, that's
Sir.
to say this.
Please be seated.
Whatever you do is fine, but I care about Jeffrey Wood. That's it.
Sir, it's obvious. I would expect no less because you're his advocate, you're his champion. But could you all please sit down so I can kind of figure out a solution for this? All right. First, let me just kind of address the obvious. I know that at times tempers have been heated in this particular trial, and they continue to do so. And I know that all of you are being zealous advocates and representing your clients to the best of your ability with zeal and rigor. However, I agree that, there should not be ad hominem attacks on anybody or any counsel, and that you all should think and reflect about what you say about your brothers and sisters of the bar. Because we have a large contingent of folks that watch this trial. And so not only for the purposes of this, but it sends not the message I think you want it to send. All right. So I'm going to leave you all to your wise discretion in order to do that. But
now it's okay for her to lie in court. And he doesn't speak to the lie. He speaks to her talking about ad hominems that he's throwing at her. That's why he's not on the case anymore.
And I'll take up whatever I need to take up as I see fit. But I know that you all, this has been a long trial. It's very demanding, exacting, and grating on and tiring on all of you. So I ask you to just take a couple deep breaths and step back and see and kind of look at and just remember that you do represent of who you represent and what you're here for. In terms of the tape or the phone calls from Fayette County, it's the court's suggestion that, and if you want my assistance, I can always, with a proper subpoena, have the raw, whatever it is that whatever you're seeking to get, I could get that, and you can compare that against what you have. Because maybe that's what, and Mr. Steele, I don't doubt, and I know that you would never delete or otherwise try and alter evidence, and I assume that that's what you got, and I'm gonna take that at face value. I'm in no way saying that. Ms. Love is in her argument is saying that she is, when it's stripped down, less all the sound and fury,
Now, how can he interpret what she's saying other than what she said? She claims she couldn't get in it. How can he say what she's saying? Practicing from the bench. That's why he's not on this case.
She's saying that particular type of file has other things with it. I don't think you were given those. And that's what she's trying to get. So I'm in no way blaming anybody in this particular circumstance. But if you want that particular file, and I think you all should have the raw file, then let me do a notice to produce or a rule nisi, and maybe we can get the entirety of the file. And I think that if you did that, I think that the whole thing would probably be produced to you, because nobody probably wants to come down here and see me. So I will work with you all to get that, and you all we can take that up, and it's a problem I think can be resolved. But I'm in no way. But I would just remind everybody to be careful about what they say to each other. Some things you just can't take back. And remember, y'all are going to see each other over and over and over again, and it serves you and serves the profession, serves your clients. It's not effective. So just please consider what I've just told you. All right. So I'm just going to recess, and we'll see where Mr. Melnick is at that point in time, and then I can talk about Monday for certain. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm just going to recess in place. All right. Yes, sir.
All right. Your Honor, we started this whole fiasco out with whether the state knew that Mr. Copeland was going to take the Fifth Amendment when he took the stand. And if so, was that proper or improper to put him up on the stand knowing that they were going to...
You have to speak up, sir. And if you could hold the microphone, it'd probably be better.
That he was going to assert the Fifth. And I know that they did know that he was going to take the Fifth because I heard it said outside right before I walked into court. I even said, the officer...
Then why didn't you, as an officer of the court, tell me before we took his testimony?
I told Mr. Steele...
No. Why didn't you, as an officer of this court, tell me?
Well, then that's my...
I got a problem with you now.
Well, that's fine. I mean...
I got a problem with you now.
Well...
I would suggest you don't say any more.
I've already said it.
I know that, sir. And the problem is you should have told me if that were your case, then you just made an argument we didn't even need to have, because I could have certainly asked him based upon your proffer. Now you want to have it both ways. You can't do that.
Your Honor, I thought the state knew that, and
that's not what the point is. The point is, you as an advocate, you should have told me.
Now, could anybody in this chat tell me why the state shouldn't have told him when they are the ones who was calling him and they the ones who knew? Why is he not angry at the state? That's why he's not on this case anymore.
Both sides have an equal responsibility under the rules of professional responsibility.
Okay, as long as we're both responsible, that's fine.
All right, have a seat, sir. Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a request in the court. Is that okay?
No. What's your request, sir?
So in the attempt to avoid any spurious allegations moving forward, I would ask that Your Honor order that the deputies transport Mr. Copeland to the jail completely separate from any...
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. In our order, wait just 1 second. In the order of the incarceration, I'm going to I also have a keep separate order for him.
Your Honor. For the transportation and the housing, because none of these gentlemen are going to say anything to him, but I don't even want anyone to claim that they did.
I think that's fair enough, and that's a good suggestion. All right.
We'll prepare.
Yes, Lieutenant Walker. So that will not be an issue? Okay. But we'll go ahead and have him, if you could also have him housed separately too? Okay. Thank you, madam. All right, anything else, counsels? All right, take a couple deep breaths this weekend, take a knee, and come back on Monday and let's get after it again, okay? All right, we'll see you on Monday morning at 8:30, okay?
Can you get us the list of names and then any exhibits for Monday?
I think the only I don't know who is being called. We can find out. Ms. Love and Ms. Hilton and Mr. Atkins, who is going to be called? Let's assume that Mr. Copeland invokes again. Do you have some other witnesses that we can take up at that point?
Your Honor, we will apprise after we look at and reevaluate where we are, because our order of proof was building blocks that at this point began with Mr. Copeland. And there are certain things that have to take place before we can tell them anything. So we have to do that. We have to deal with that and where we are right now.
All right.
And,
the new judge said that's not happening. You're going to tell me before time. And I want that information, all that information in by the end of next week. So how is it Mr. Copeland is the building block of the case? They're going to make up a case based on whatever they get Mr. Copeland to say, so that they could get those videos in, because that's what they wanted to do.
That's just where we are.
Okay. Well, be thinking about what scenarios you'd like to have the court look at,
Yes, Your Honor.
depending upon whether or not Mr. Copeland decides he'd like to invoke his privilege again. Okay,
Yes, Your Honor.
all right,
And Your Honor, go ahead.
madam.
Mr. Sharp, he can have the floor.
Yes.
I'm just going to ask a courtesy of the deputies, could we just keep our clients here for just 5 minutes after court ends, 15 minutes after court ends? The attorneys would like to have a discussion with our clients.
Lieutenant Walker.
And Your Honor, the state has a matter we need to take up ex parte.
Okay. All right.
That's why I believe it was more than one ex parte meeting, because she announced that in court. That was Friday evening. And I believe they met Friday evening. And then they met again Monday morning. Because nobody knew anything about what was going on Monday morning. So it's all on tape. Pot me kettle. This is Mr. Steele's motion where she left out all of the judicial misconduct and called it all hyperbole. These are the last videos that we're watching. He said on June 10th, the court and the prosecutors eventually admitted in open court. Let's go up above that. Let's go on Monday, because we left off on Friday. On Monday, June 10th, 2024, the court, along with lawyers Love and Hilton, engaged in an ex parte meeting with, among others, previously sworn witness Mr. Copeland, for whom an order of use immunity had been given on Friday, June 7th, 2024, that nobody knew anything about, because they only gave it because his attorney contacted them on that 6th to let them know, don't talk to my client without me. Notice of this ex parte meeting was provided to any attorney. Let me see. No notice of this ex parte meeting was provided to any attorney for any of the accused on trial. In fact, the accused and their counsel were wholly unaware that this star chamber, she's calling that hyperbole, meeting was occurring or had occurred until well after the fact. Mr. Copeland had previously been called to testify on Friday, June 7, 2024, asserted his Fifth Amendment rights in front of the jury, and was held in contempt and incarcerated until such time as he agreed to testify pursuant to the order granting use immunity. That was June 7th, and we know we seen him get arrested. Once undersigned counsel confronted the court with a motion as to why the court held this impermissible ex parte meeting on Monday, June 10th, the court and the prosecutors eventually admitted in open court that this ex parte meeting had in fact occurred on the morning of June 10, 2024. This admission occurred, make sure y'all can see it. This admission occurred only after undersigned counsel revealed, based upon information and belief, that this impermissible, illegal meeting occurred. Undersigned counsel proffered that statements were made to and in Mr. Copeland's presence by the court and our lawyers, Love and Hilton, all acting in concert. Number one, asserting that Attorney Melnick failed to represent Mr. Copeland's interest, and number two, explaining the amount of time that Mr. Copeland would be held in custody unless he testifies as urged by lawyers Love/Hilton and the court. On June 10, 2024, the court denied undersigned counsel's request for the transcript of the improper, unconstitutional ex parte meeting and denied undersigned counsel timely motion for mistrial based upon, including but not limited to, Mr. Williams' federal and Georgia constitutional and statutory rights. That included the right to due process, a fair trial, a fair tribunal, ethical prosecutors, and the right to be present at every critical stage of the proceedings. Instead, the court held undersigned counsel in contempt and ordered undersigned counsel to spend 20 days in jail despite the assertion of valid privileges in declining to answer the court's demand to reveal the supposed source of the information about the ex parte meeting. In the afternoon of Monday, June 10, 2024, lawyers Love and Hilton sat mute and permitted this travesty of justice to continue. Later, lawyer Love argued that the ex parte conversation with sworn witness Mr. Copeland was ethical, just, and proper, despite it violating multiple constitutional provisions, judicial canons, and rules of professional responsibility. See YouTube dated 10/24 at 4/22:05 through 5/18:45. We won't look at all of it, but we'll look at some of it. Anytime y'all want to check out, I understand. Five 18:45, 4/22:05. Okay, let's go. 4/22:05. Let me get back to 4/22. Okay, it's going to give us 4/22:07.
He is. He's right behind you.
Sorry. I have a motion that I need to make outside the presence of Mr. Copeland.
All right, you can make it right now. Is he out?
Let me know when you get down.
Is Mr. Copeland out?
No, he's upstairs.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, come on down. Don't come in the court. Come and get your license. All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The way I understand my constitutional obligations, pursuant to the 6th and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution, the corresponding sections of the Georgia Constitution, I'm required to make a full and complete statement to the court. For the record, and if God forbid this goes up on appeal for the appellate courts or another tribunal, commission, or administrative body, I was told, based upon information and belief, that when we arrived at 8:30, 9 o'clock today, we did not come into your courtroom until almost 11:30. And what I found out just recently, this is not waived, is that supposedly in chambers, this honorable court reporter at times, honorable court at times, district attorney or district attorneys from the DA's office, as well as investigators, sheriff deputies, Mr. Copeland and his counsel met together. None of the defense team, to my knowledge, was aware that this was going on. It was told, based upon information belief, that it was told to the district attorneys that Mr. Copeland intended to plead the Fifth Amendment. Then I was told, based upon information belief, that Adrian Love, the lawyer for Mr. Copeland, and this court were together, and Ms. Love made representations that John Melnick supposedly spoke with some attorneys for the accused and wrote an email to Ms. Love, to Adrian Love, stating that Mr. Melnick does not represent the witness, and that Mr. Melnick wrote an email saying F you, and then somehow that email was CC'd to me. That never.
Mr. Steele, can I interrupt you for just a second? I'm kind of disturbed because that's ex parte. All that was an ex parte conversation. How did you find out about any of that?
Well, I'm disturbed too. And the reason
I'm asking you a question. How did you find out about it?
I'm going to ask you the question.
Okay.
Scuttle, if you look at SCUDDER versus state, which is 298 Georgia, 438, it's Division 2, 782 Southeast 2D 638, 2016. Our highest court says when a court meets, because Mr. Copeland comes, meets with the court supposedly made statements. I assume what I just said. The other first only charge here is entitled under the Constitution present.
Well, for reasons, but I will certainly note that for purposes of record.
Well, I'm going forward. Because I want to make sure that what I say is accurate, and I'm not trying to get anybody else.
I'm asking you, how did you get this information?
I'm not telling the court. What I'm saying is based upon information.
Okay, well, listen, if you don't tell me how you got this information, then you and I are going to have some problems.
We can have. I have problems right now.
Okay, I know. Look, I don't want to know about your problems. Okay, at this point in time, all I'm asking you at this point in time is, how somehow you have surreptitiously gotten information in regards to court's private ex parte conversation with the party. I mean,
yeah, he doesn't think he surreptitiously had a meeting that they knew nothing about. I mean, this judge is beside himself. And he's talking about the world's watching. The world is watching. That's why he's not on this case anymore.
I mean, a party, a witness, who was sworn in Friday. The court's telling, this is what I was told. If this is not true, not true. This court
Mr. Steele,
handed
ask
Mr.
me.
Copeland.
Tell me how you
perjury.
got the information.
Listen, whatever you want to do.
Tell me how you got the information, then we can go ahead and go forward.
I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is this. I was told, and I hope this concerns the court.
It concerns me that you have proprietary information.
Why is it
or
proprietary?
Information that you should not be having that was ex parte.
Why?
With a party.
Why?
State of Georgia.
How about the witness? How about Mr. Copeland, who supposedly announced he's not testifying and he'll sit for 2 years, and then supposedly this honorable court,
okay.
Or excuse me, let me rephrase that. This court supposedly said, I can hold you until the end of this trial. Ms. Copeland supposedly said, actually, all of the defense and all people are disposed of. If that's true, what this is coercion, witness intimidation, ex parte communications that we have a constitutional right to be present for. So I understand that you're upset towards me, but I don't know what I did.
Mr. Steele, I still want to know, how did you come upon this information? Who told you?
What I want to know is, why wasn't I there? Why,
sir? I'm going to hold you in contempt if you don't tell me who that. Tell me who this information was coming from.
I don't want to be held in contempt.
Well,
I'm
then,
not answering that question. That's attorney-client privilege information. I am not answering.
Attorney-client privilege. Unless you tell me who it is, I'm going to put you in. I'm going to put you in contempt because that is attorney privilege.
Attorney privilege. I am not.
How did you get that information supposedly from my chambers? Did somebody tell you?
I am not. You should have told me.
You got 5 minutes.
Well, I don't need it. I want to continue.
You got 5 minutes?
This is what I was told. Don't take my notes. No.
Okay, the rest is basically when they come back and he gets arrested and sent to the back. And then let me see a video recording, audio recording of the entire in court June 10th, 2024 trial proceedings can be accessed online. Oh, and he's given one where you can see the whole day. So, we've seen that. So we can get ready to close this out. But I'm going to finish reading this. Furthermore, Mr. Williams requests a list of persons involved in the topic of same and a transcript of all of the ex parte meetings, if any, conducted by the court involving anything to do with the case trial. Additionally, Mr. Williams also moves that any document that is filed under seal be reviewed by a neutral judicial officer to determine whether same needs to be unsealed and shared with Mr. Williams under statute and or constitutional provisions. Wherefore, undersigned counsel respectfully requests that, number one, Lawyer Love be barred from uttering false allegations or disparaging words toward another. Number two, Lawyer Love conduct herself with professionalism and in full compliance with the Georgia Rules of Professional Responsibility, which govern the conduct of lawyers in the state of Georgia, if able. And number three, a mistrial be declared based upon Lawyer Love, Lawyer Hilton, and the court's failure to protect the above stated constitutional rights, as well as Mr. Williams' right to be present under Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 7, that's Paragraph 12 of the Georgia Constitution, its federal counterpart. The right to confront witnesses, right to a fair tribunal, right to a fair trial, right to due process, right to present a defense, and call witnesses. This 10th day of July 2024, respectfully, Brian Steele and Mr. Keith Adams. And then he also put in an order granting defendant Williams' motion in limine, number 23, filed on July 27, 2023. After hearing from the parties on or about August 31st, 2023, specifically Brian Steele on behalf of Mr. Williams and representatives from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office on behalf of the state of Georgia, this honorable court hereby grants Mr. Williams' motion in limine, number 23, concerning the fact that other indicted persons in this case sought or actually retained attorney Brian Steele. This honorable court already held a conflict hearing and denied the state's efforts to remove attorney Steele as Mr. Williams' counsel. Therefore, the prosecution and all witnesses, parties are hereby ordered not to ever mention that attorney Steele represented any other person in this indictment unless and until same becomes relevant and is first addressed to the honorable court outside of the presence of the jury. This includes any recorded calls that mentions attorney Steele as a person sought to be heard by any of the accused. And they did that several times. That was done so ordered on the 17th day of November 2023 by the Honorable Judge Glanville. So he forgets he's honorable. And it was served upon Adrian Love. And they have the certificate of service. Guess she didn't sign hers. So this lady has done what she wanted to do throughout this trial, but it is not going to work out well for them. I don't believe. We're going to see with the new judge. It's going to be very interesting to see how this turns out, but I truly believe she's going through the process and she's preparing to render a mistrial. That's just one woman's opinion. And on that note, I thank you for being in the chat. Whoever you are, I appreciate you staying with me. I'm going to get ready to leave the Tiger's Den. And as always, we're going to go out as I believe the children are our future. And we're going to go out as the children being our future. Have a beautiful night and a beautiful beginning of a new week. Goodbye. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us who we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I failed, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of takes you to a lonely place, find yourself in love.